1997.
Cool party.
Very shagadelic. How do you like them apples?
I'd like to take his... Get off my plane. Lost world is found.
All right, everybody, double check your gear. Make sure it's all on board. Pray you didn't forget your bug spray.
On the rivers of the Amazon.
Wow, it's unbelievable.
This river can kill you in 1,000 ways.
In the waters of the Anaconda.
There's a legend Shirishama worship giant snakes as gods and protectors. Snakes?
What was that?
There's something down there. That's right.
No matter what you do.
He's not breathing!
No!
TriStar Pictures invites you on a journey into the grip of fear. Anaconda.
Welcome to another episode of Quantum Recast. I'm your host, Cory, and we got a full table today. Cass, Ash, and Nick are all here.
Woo!
Hey. And we are here to envision what 1997's Anaconda would look like in the year 2014. But before we do that, we are on all the social media, so please go find us on the social media, and you can engage with us, and you can, answer our silly questions, like who would you have casted, or what movie do you want to see? We do look at that stuff, though we don't always acknowledge it. Yeah, we do look at it, and we usually go,
dumb.
Yeah, we go, that's stupid. Get your own podcast. No, we don't. But if this is your first time listening, we are a theoretical film podcast, which means we like to posit the question of what would a movie look like if it was released in a completely different year. So yes, if you've clicked on this, you have seen that we are taking the Jennifer Lopez classic Anaconda to 2014, and we're going to see what would a cast for Anaconda in 2014 look like, because J-Lo would have been too big for her britches for a movie like Anaconda in 2014. True. So those are the kind of things we have to explore here. But before we dive into Anaconda, and before we dive into the year 2014, has anybody watched anything great, okay, or atrocious that they want to talk about?
I guess I'll take the floor. I watched a really weird movie. I don't know if anyone's seen it. I think I mentioned it a while back. It was called The Lobster. It's got Colin Farrell and Rachel Weisz. And it's done by this Greek director called Yorgos Lanthimos, and he's quite a visionary. And it's set in a dystopian future. And if you're single by the age of 40, the law states that you have to be put into this place called the hotel. And then you have a month to find a mate. And if you don't, you get turned into an animal of your choice and get released into the wild, and Colin Farrell picks a lobster. But it's a very interesting sort of dynamic. There's a bit of layers involved. It's not what you think, but the concept's amazing, and it led me in. And it's a great movie. And Yorgos Lanthimos, he's definitely a director to look out for. But great film. Yeah. Loved it. Really cool.
It's like a Black Mirror episode.
Exactly.
I gotta ask. Nick, you're staring down the barrel of 40 a little bit down the road, and you're single. What animal would you be?
Oh my god!
I mean, I didn't.
I'm just saying, I'm married. Ash is engaged. Cass is only 22 or 23, she's got time. Yeah. You're on the clock, my friend. So.
And it's fourth quarter. We gotta make some hustle.
So
do I get to have? Is it any animal? Is it imaginary animals? No. It has to be an animal that is known. So
what do you mean imaginary animal?
Yeah,
you must be a griffin
animal. I could be a dragon if I wanted to. A griffin. Yeah. It's quite interesting in the movie. When they state what animal you'd like to be turned into, they have to state why as well. So yeah, I mean, Corey, give it a go. Have you got what animal would you like to be?
I'm married. I'm good. I don't have to be an animal. I'm...
What about you, Nick? Seems like you're
Anaconda, maybe? Like, did Anaconda...
Maybe an anaconda. After this movie, absolutely.
All right. Okay, I just had to ask. I was just curious. All right. Anybody else watch anything good? I watched nothing of really any note. I was busy since our last recording, so.
I have not.
I watched this great movie called The Super Mario Brothers Movie. No, actually, it was really fun. Weirdly, the critics hated it, but audiences loved it, and it's already its first weekend, and it's made. It's like the biggest video game movie ever, apparently, just in its first weekend, which probably isn't that high of a bar to really jump. But I thought it's pretty straightforward retelling of the whole Mario story, but you kind of needed it because the last time they tried this, it didn't go so well. So I felt like the standard straight ahead story was what they needed to do, and it's fun, and there's some good Easter eggs in there and stuff, and I think it just does a good job of just being a fun movie. I watched that, and I also watched John Wick Chapter 4, which I also would subtitle The Good, the Bad, and the Keanu Reeves. Nice. It is the spaghetti western of the John Wick series, I would say. Maybe Ash could confirm or deny this. I think he watched it this weekend as well.
No, absolutely. It's an extraordinary action sequence in that movie. I mean, it's packed with real life action, and I think now it's adapted into this thing called gun kung fu, which is what John Wick is sort of practicing in the 4 movies. But yeah, there is one sequence in particular that I was talking to Nick before this podcast that was extraordinary, and I had a look, and it's actually now ranked on the 250 top IMDb movies. So I think it's on number 154. Excellent. So nice. It is doing something to be, recognized, and the action sequences have taken another level. So yeah, it's worth a watch for sure.
For sure.
Cool.
But yeah, that was what I watched.
Awesome. So Cass and I failed. We didn't watch anything good. So sorry.
Next time.
I watched Everest, the 2015 movie, and it was just very people go up a mountain and die. It was not a great movie.
Is that the Josh Brolin one?
Yeah, it's Josh Brolin, Jake Gyllenhaal, and that crew. And it's the problem is I think the movie came out 2 years too soon. If it came out just later, it would have been like a 8-episode Netflix series where you could actually flesh characters out and dive into everything that went wrong. But because it's just a 2-hour movie, they're like, commercial mountain climbing. Oh no, a storm, dead. That's it. It was I don't feel good.
That's no vertical limit, is what it sounds like.
There's no Bill Paxton.
It was okay, but it just could have been better. All right, so that means we need to talk about 1997's Anaconda. Did not expect to do this movie on this podcast, but Ash has corrected that, so that's exciting. I saw this movie.
Did not have that on my bingo card.
It's a great movie.
I saw this movie 37 times when I was in middle school. So I mean, it's a fun movie. It was just one of those movies that was on rotation from Blockbuster in our household. So, well, what did the critics think about Anaconda? Back in 1997. So useless critic stats for Anaconda is IMDb gives it a 4.8 out of 10 rating. Rotten Tomatoes, the critics liked it a little more with 40%. Audience score of only 24%. A bunch of fuddy-duddies went and saw this movie.
Wow.
Who are these people?
Exactly. Just have a good time. What were you expecting going into a creature feature? So, Metacritic, 37 out of 100. That's a hard fail. So you can't even get to a passing grade with extra credit there. Letterboxd, 2.3 out of 5 stars.
Yes.
Roger Ebert. Before I tell you Roger Ebert's star count, I just want to remind everyone last episode that Roger Ebert gave Gladiator 2 stars. Gave it a
the nerve
50.
of that man.
For Anaconda, Roger Ebert gave it a near perfect 3.5 stars.
My man Raj. This guy knows his stuff.
Oh my god.
He's so inconsistent. What does I love him. I love him.
It's madman. They gave him a TV show to talk about movies.
Raj, he
was on
rational.
cable television. What is
Oh
this?
my god.
I feel like I don't know Roger Ebert. I know who he is, and I feel like being a horror movie fan, he's just often painted as this villain that hated them. And it's like the more we do this podcast, I'm like, are we sure we didn't mispaint?
Are we sure he's
Roger
not?
Ebert?
Yeah.
Like,
He's a good guy.
His review is typical, but the best part is he essentially says, the information in the opening titles of Anaconda, and it says, as the words rolled across the screen, he heard a chuckle in the theater, and it came from himself because in the opening titles it says, alone among snakes, anacondas are unique. After eating their prey, they regurgitate in order to eat again. And he says, as soon as he read this, he laughed to himself because he knew that by the end of the movie, he would see an anaconda regurgitate a human being. So out the gate, he was just like, this is going to be good. So,
Amazing.
You've set it up. It's like it wouldn't feel right if he did regurgitate something.
Yeah. That's a Chekhov's regurgitation. It's they show it in the opening.
Exactly.
You got to do it.
That's the proper term. Yes.
So Roger Ebert loved it. Not a fan of Gladiator. Huge fan of Anaconda. That is absolutely wild. Anaconda, though.
I'm all for that.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm all for it. Anaconda was released in 1997, starring Jennifer Lopez, who at the time was actually not that big of a deal. She had just come off Selena and kind of cemented some credibility there.
On the up, as it were.
As well as Ice Cube and John Voight, and for like weirdly Eric Stoltz, who's only sort of in the movie. Like it's very odd. And then also up and comers Owen Wilson was in there, you know. So Carrie War, it's kind of an all-star cast when you go back and look at it, but at the time it was just more like these people you sort of recognize. Directed by Luis Josa, written by 3 people. Cannot believe it took 3 people to write this movie. Hans Bauer, Jim Cash, and Jack Epps Jr. So, and the I guess if you need a synopsis of Anaconda, it's about a documentary film crew who run into a giant snake hunter who forces them to take him down the Amazon River looking for a giant prize-winning snake. And it, of course, just torments them and eats them one by one. Well, we need, if we're taking Anaconda to 2014, we got to talk about 2014. We got to get a feel for the year before we just waltz into this movie and start recasting it. Which means we got to ask ourselves the question, what were the people watching in 2014? The top 10 box office for the year 2014, and this is movies released in the year 2014.
Got it.
This is going to get wild. We have been here before. We did Gremlins in 2014, and so
yes.
We have been to this year before, so this might sound a little familiar, but coming in at number 10, Big Hero 6. Number 9, X-Men, Days of Future Past. Number 8, Maleficent. Number 7, Transformers, Age of Extinction. Number 6, The Hobbit, Battle of the Five Armies. Number 5, The Lego Movie. Number 4, Captain America, The Winter Soldier. Number 3, Guardians of the Galaxy. Number 2, The Hunger Games, Mockingjay, Part 1. I just would like everyone to know that 10 through 2 is either a franchise or Disney or something crazy, so number 1 is a little shocking. Clint Eastwood's American Sniper was the number 1 movie in 2014. Isn't that wild?
That's the number 1 movie?
American Sniper?
Yes.
That's insane.
I mean, it was okay, but Yeah, when
It just
above
okay.
that.
It was not to get too political, but it was just part of this
America.
yeehaw movement, like pro. Yeah, it was very
Yeah.
much an America moment. I went in thinking it was like this introspective movie about like a guy and his mental state deteriorating and the effects of war, and thought, oh, that was a very like kind of progressive view of war and stuff for Clint Eastwood. But then the reaction from the masses obviously was, oh, I love that when he did that, when he had that shootout with the guy at the end, America. And you're like, wait, what universe am I living in? Is this alternate reality? What's happening? So, yes.
So it's like modern day Rambo, I guess, since I just watched First Blood and I was like thinking it was going to be this uber action movie that's like, oh, this is a movie about PTSD. And then like
Pretty
and
much.
then the sequels became very much because I think it latched onto the whole war veteran being a killing machine. And so
that's what we're missing is American Sniper 2. The only problem is that he's dead. So there's that.
Yeah.
But we can resurrect him. You know,
Spoiler
if
alert.
Passion of the Christ 2 can happen, so can American Sniper 2.
I am waiting eagerly for that.
Yes.
Yeah, like yeah, no, you're right. It's weird. It's a weird movie. All right. So that was the number one movie in America in in the world in 2014, for some reason. All right. But you know, in a weird way, I guess like I'm pumped to see that like a one-off movie went toe to toe with all the franchises and came out on top.
Right.
You gotta, I guess at least appreciate that one.
Sure.
So all right. So that brings us to, we need to talk about, okay, what did the critics like? What were the Oscars? Like, okay, so everyone was going and watching franchises and Bradley Cooper. But what did the Oscars like? We all got to put on our bow ties, our tuxedos, and waltz right down the red carpet like we belong. That's the secret. Just act like you belong there. The Oscars celebrating movies in 2014. Best Actress in a Supporting Role went to Patricia Arquette for Boyhood, in which she gave just that speech that just went super viral. I don't remember what it was about. I just remember people really got behind Patricia Arquette, which I was like, I'm sure what she said was awesome, but I just remember thinking like, gosh, Boyhood's stupid. All right. Actor in a Supporting Role went to J.K. Simmons for Whiplash. Best actor or actress in a leading role went to Julianne Moore for Still Alice, and best actor in a leading role went to Eddie Redmayne for The Theory of Everything. And then best picture went down to, the nominees were Whiplash, The Theory of Everything, Selma, The Imitation Game, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Boyhood, American Sniper, and the winner, Birdman, or The Unexpected Virtue of Ignorance. And so,
Great film.
Nice.
a lot of mixed bag there. Biopics and just, you know, pretty good movies, honestly, except for Boyhood. Boyhood didn't belong in there. And then
Ash, what are your thoughts on Boyhood?
I mean, the whole idea about someone spending 12 years, or is it 12 years? It was a long time to make a film.
Yeah.
Following an actor, or I guess not an actor, someone for 12 years.
A child,
through their
yeah.
adolescence. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it sounds quite appealing and quite meta, and I was like, okay, this is something new. I'll give it a go. But the film itself was
about
I
nothing.
don't know how to explain it.
It's a gimmick.
Yeah,
It was a gimmick. It was like,
Exactly.
cool, watch this kid grow up in a movie.
yeah, exactly. I think the concept was far more superior than the actual execution of the movie. So
I think it would have been better had he actually had a script from the get-go and just chose the child to play and said, we're making this movie over 12 years, but I've chosen a child that will play the kid through these 12 years.
Yeah,
But-
yeah. I mean, it's been done now, so they don't have to do that again.
Yeah.
It was interesting at the time.
Here's my thing. because I know people who love it and think the gimmick is cool, and it's like, look, they followed these these actors for 12 years. It's like, cool. We've had sitcoms since the effing 70s, man. I watched the Olsen twins grow up. Like, I watched them from an infant to like a teenager. I've seen this. It's a thing. Like it's whatever. I don't know. I didn't think it was
done before.
that cool.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, I can watch myself grow old. So, all right. So the Oscars liked biopics and kind of pretentious films. Franchises, biopics, pretentious films. Anaconda has not found its place yet. Twin films. Let's see what they doubled down on in 2014. And oh my gosh, quite a bit. Wow. All right.
Oh, no.
So, for one, across 2013 to 2015, they made The Machine, Automata, Ex Machina, Transcendence, Chappie, and Uncanny, and they're all science fiction films involving robots and artificial intelligence going sentient. They made 2 Saint Laurent movies, biopics in 2014. There were 2 Hercules movies. Oh, I'm sorry, 3 Hercules movies in 2014.
What?
Hercules, The Legend of Hercules, and Hercules Reborn all came out in 2014.
There's the one with The Rock, and then there's like the really bad looking one that I definitely didn't watch. And I don't even know the third one.
Also in 2014, we had 3 romantic comedies centering around zombies, Life After Beth, Burying the Ex, and Warm Bodies. And then finally in 2014, we had 2 dysfunctional family movies reuniting after the death of a patriarch in August, Osage County, and This Is Where I Leave You. The romantic comedy involving zombies is oddly specific. Like that's a weird one.
We were in the Walking Dead hype at this point. Like we were still all about the zombies.
And 3 filmmakers went, what if they were in love? And so, oh, that's wild to me. Okay, all right. So, also Hollywood was into zombies and Hercules. Still. Okay, so Anaconda's going to be Anaconda's just going to be unique, I think, in 2014. But what about you guys? Anything you guys that hasn't been mentioned yet that you just love about 2014?
Yeah, I mean, first. Yeah, Cash, you go first.
Wow, feel put on the spot. I really liked the movie As Above, So Below. I think that was a really good horror film, just because it is just the underground and just seeing all of the just creepy shit of what's down underground.
What's down there?
Yeah, shut up. I know.
Beneath us.
But Creep was also a really good movie in 2014. But I have a weird love for 22 Jump Street because I watched it in theaters in 2014.
Okay.
So that one is there's a little bit of love, and I'll surprise everybody, but love Rosie, which is a romance film.
Not your particular thing, is it?
But there's also an actor in that movie that they would both call me out on, Ash. So,
and who is said actor?
Well, maybe Sam Claflin, but maybe I don't know. He might be the lead with Lily Collins.
Oh, Lily Collins.
But to me, I like the movie just because it's not like your PG-13 corny. It's just about 2 best friends that have this this love. They have feelings for each other, but one little thing basically ruined their chances to getting together. And it's rated R, which I also like because it takes away the corniness of some PG-13 romance films.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about you, Ash? Anything from 2014 that you love?
I mean, it was one of my favorite years in cinema. There is a lot that came out this year, but I will pick 3 movies that I think sort of went under the radar. This one, not so much, but I do believe Jake Gyllenhaal was completely snubbed at the Oscars for this because I think his performance in Nightcrawler was absolutely amazing, and it's actually one of my favorite films. I don't know if you guys have seen Nightcrawler. It's just
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal plays this kind of recluse, this kind of awkward, highly intellectual piece of scum, really, who finds a career in recording accidents and selling them to news stations who'll have them, and he resonates sort of Frank Underwood's character in House of Cards. He basically will do what it takes to be ahead of the game, and
Right.
his performance
Yeah.
is so good. And Bill Paxton's in this movie as well with Rene Russo, and it's done in a sort of a Michael Mann way. This whole lit up LA kind of vibe going on. It's a really well done film. Riz Ahmed's in it as well, but I think Jake Gyllenhaal has his best performance I've seen in a long time. I think he is definitely one of those actors who, for cinephiles, is under the radar. I'm shocked he hasn't been nominated yet. He's done so many great films, but this one was incredible. And there was another film called Dear White People, and it just follows the lives of 4 black people at Ivy League schools, and it's absolutely amazing. It's a real eye-opener to American society and the lives of black people in America and in general, and how they're perceived all over the world with different religions, different types of people in Ivy Leagues. And that was a film that came out, and there was didn't make a lot of money, but it's definitely one that is being looked at a lot more recently these days. And probably the other film I'd probably say is a film called The Drop. It's got James Gandolfini and Tom Hardy in it, and that's a very cool kind of Goodfellas movie, but very low key.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think, and Tom Hardy's definitely, again, he plays a very down version of what he usually plays, but for good reason too. But I won't ruin too much about the movie. But it's set in East America, and it surprised me of how good it was. But yeah, those are 3 of the films I thought went under the radar a little bit.
Nice.
Yeah, what about you, Nick?
So I got 3. The first one I watched recently was this Persian language American Western horror called A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Basically takes strange enough, I watched it on the last drive-in show with Joe Bob Briggs, which probably wasn't tonally the right, but I wasn't mad about it. This was during when Cory was like, "Hey, watch all this stuff," and I was like, "Okay." But I just threw it on. It's very interesting. It's a very unique horror movie. Beyond that, this is the year that The Raid 2 came out, or you might know it as Raid Retaliation. It's an Indonesian action thriller movie. If you've watched the first one, this one just where it was more like Die Hard Kung Fu in a building. This is an expanded kind of Godfather kind of story beyond that. And it's really, really good. I'll throw 2 more at you real quick. Song of the Sea was this animated international film. It's the second installment from this trilogy by a group called Cartoon Saloon. I believe they're based in Ireland. And it's basically about a 10-year-old boy who discovers that his mute sister is like a sea person or sea folk. There's an Irish term for it. But they're a 2D animation department, and the 3 movies I've watched, they're all really interesting and very unique and like beautifully crafted. And so I always try to give them a shout out when I get a chance. And then on the fun side, I also included Let's Be Cops with Jake Johnson and Damon Wayans, because they just pretend to be cops and hijinks ensue. So
cool.
Cory?
So I think Into the Woods is one of the greatest on-screen musicals ever made. And so that came out in 2014. I love Into the Woods. And then I also put Nightcrawler, and that's just because I think Jake Gyllenhaal is probably like the best modern actor currently working.
It's a good one.
A huge mark for Jake Gyllenhaal. And he was in the run of his life, I think, in the mid-2000s with Enemy and Prisoners and Nightcrawler. Yeah, for sure. And then I put a skateboard documentary called All This Mayhem, which is incredible. It's about the Pappas brothers, these Australian skateboarding brothers, and like pretty much kind of like exposes back that like, and kind of accuses Tony Hawk of rigging most of like skating in the like late 90s, 2000s. Like Tony Hawk pulled some leverage to keep him out of certain competitions and things like that. He was kind of like Tony Hawk's main rival in the latter half of Tony Hawk's career, after I guess Christian Hosoi went to jail. So he was the new rival. And then one of the brothers ends up murdering someone. And so it's a pretty wild documentary. It's all over the place. Yep. So it's wild. So I think it's amazing. So, all right. So again, none of us really, I mean, Cass picked a lot of horror, so she would watch Anaconda in 2014, I'm sure. So Ash, this is where we ask you. You chose Anaconda, and you chose to bring it to 2014, and we give you the chance to tell us why. Like,
Yeah.
what tickled your fancy there?
Well, I won't really talk about Anaconda yet. It's a monster movie that I think went beyond what it needed to be just because of the ensemble cast, and I think it still survives, not just because of nostalgia, just because that all the actors that are in the movie are probably A-listers now, minus a few of them. So I think it's actually survived quite well in terms of the accidental B-list in casting. But why I took it to 2014 is this, for me, is where the independent market starts to sort of stand against the great surge of the sequels, the comic book era. It's basically like the Lucas Spielberg Part 2. And what I mean by that is this is the year where we have our own contemporary auteurs and they were allowed to stretch their muscles, kind of like Tarantino in 1992, Matt and Ben in 1997, like Spielberg did with Jaws, like Lucas did with Star Wars. And 2014, I really think, is that year because this is the year we get Whiplash, that's Damien Chazelle's introduction, Ex Machina, that's Alec Garland's. We get David Robert Mitchell's It Follows this year, Jennifer Kent's The Babadook. We've got the introduction to John Wick this year, even the introduction to Florence Pugh this year as well, the beginning of the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Monster Universe, Godzilla came out this year, the Groundhog Day attempt of a sci-fi movie, Edge of Tomorrow. Even Tom Cruise was taking random risk. RDJ wasn't in an Iron Man film this year. He was in a film called The Judge. So this was the year where everyone was just taking risks and they were really paying off. And we also had like tragedies this year. This was the year that Richard Attenborough passed away. Robin Williams passed away. So this is a really, really jam-packed year. And I don't think there's anything you can really touch in any of these movies because for me, you have a look at all the established auteurs like Christopher Nolan. This is the year he did Interstellar. David Fincher did Gone Girl this year. Wes Anderson did Grand Budapest Hotel. Like arguably their best films. Michael Keaton makes a comeback. So the reason I'm picking Anaconda for this year is because nothing can really be touched in 2014. And this is sort of the year where I think you can make a risk and make the movie Anaconda into something completely different than it was. So, yeah, there's a lot going on in this year, and there's a lot of people hovering around 2014. So I'm just interested to see where people go with their casting, because I did mention that you can go completely diverse with it or you can stick to it. But it'll be interesting to see which direction people go.
That's interesting.
Indeed.
I didn't think a lot about that. You brought up a lot of good points about 2014 because it's a year I don't really particularly love. There's not a whole lot of movies I like, but you brought up a lot of really good, important things about 2014. So now I think it's
a year. I think it's a year that gets initially was forgotten underneath all the sequels and stuff, but then when you go back and look at a lot of movies, you're like, oh, that was really good, that was really good, that was a lot of stuff that was under the radar. And maybe movies like Nightcrawler, movies like it got some Oscar love and stuff here and there, but but a lot of these, like A Girl Walks Alone at Night, it's obviously it's a horror, so it's not going to be critically like talked about as much, but you start to dig these up, 10 years later almost now.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think reviewing it after a lot of time, it kind of shows what kind of year 2014 is. And it was, I think at the time it was kind of like too chaotic. And then after like 7 years, you've sort of let it sunk in. You're like, that was a really good year. Like everyone was sort of firing on all cylinders. Even the established directors were making good films. So it was a very interesting year when you look back at it.
And it kind of acts as a bit of like not a last stand, but like a really strong year where there was a push against sequels and stuff. Obviously, the top 10 is filled with them, but somehow Clint Eastwood stands on top with an original movie. So,
yeah, for sure.
No, absolutely. And, you got films like Interstellar sort of creeping in there as well. And I think that's Whiplash, usual films at like the Oscars, I sort of bat an eyelid to because they're like too pretentious. But Whiplash was actually a film that I loved. And I don't know about you guys, but
me and Corey, I think we watched it like we were doing an Oscar watch, and we sat there and went, "That was really good. We kind of want that to win."
I don't know.
Yeah,
That was like
yeah.
that was a PTSD movie. I was in drumline in high school, and it was very like military regimented. I got yelled at a lot. That I didn't like. That movie kind of freaks me out a little bit. I've never gone back and watched it because that was about.
Yeah, I've only ever seen it once.
I lived that kind of, not as bad, but it was got there a couple times. So, ugh. But no, it's a phenomenal movie. Nick, Cass, was this your first time watching Anaconda? Because I know it wasn't mine and Ash's.
Cass.
It was mine. It was mine. Yes.
Nick, have you seen
Thoughts?
Anaconda before?
Oh, this is my second viewing of Anaconda.
Oh, okay,
So-
all right. So,
I believe it might have been one we watched at Owl House back in the day. So
I probably put it on at least a couple of times.
yeah.
What did you guys think about this kind of
Nick, what did you think?
late in life
Since it
creature
was your
feature?
second watch.
Ladies first.
It was your second watch. I'd like to hear what you thought.
Oh my
Well,
God.
Rewatching it this time, it really sinks in. Like it is a B movie, but
Yeah.
it's fun. It has fun with the fact that it's a B movie. I don't know if that was their true intention going in. Maybe Ash could speak on that, but it definitely feels like a successor to the types of movies like Jaws and things like that, monster creature feature things. The fact that you have these cast members that go on to become bigger stars, I think helps elevate it even more. Because if it was just if it was just another horror movie, there'd be a bunch of people that you didn't know and don't recognize, and this might have been their only movie except for like one of them. But the fact that pretty much everyone in the cast has gone on to do more stuff, I think it makes this movie even more interesting. But yeah, I think Ash is right that in the right hands, this movie can be something completely different, and it could actually be. You could elevate it to a Jaws level kind of event movie versus just being like a B movie horror, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, Nick. Like horror movies have like this kind of lineage of like where a lot of future A-listers get their start. You know, Kevin Bacon was in Friday the 13th, and Jennifer Aniston was in Leprechaun, and Matthew McConaughey was in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre type of thing. And so like, yeah, like this one actually spit out 3, almost like Ice Cube is obviously famous for something else. J-Lo was just coming on the scene, with Selena, and Owen Wilson was, nobody. And so, yeah, I mean, like, John Voight was kind of in a resurgence. 'Cause he was, huge in the 70s. And so, yeah, like I think that's a good point to kind of make even, and that's an interesting like tidbit. You guys all saw more in this movie than I did, so and that's amazing. So, all right, cool. Anaconda, yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's weird. I think creature features kind of died out like way before. I mean, there was a lot in the 80s, kind of, but they were like really low budget. And as they crept into the early 90s, they got even more low budget. And so Anaconda was interesting that they threw a lot of money at it and kind of said, let's bring it back. And, I know Godzilla was kind of, a year away from making a return and all that. And so, Anaconda's a lot of fun. It's a fun movie.
No,
And
yeah,
so,
you kind of have to watch it that way. You can't just watch it thinking that it's going to be like this, like great, like the script's amazing, the Anaconda's gonna be like actually real or something. Like it's a weird movie, but it's a fun watch. It was definitely an interesting time for it to be my first watch.
Yeah, for sure. And it's actually really interesting to know what people think of it now when they've watched it for the first time. So that's a really unique perspective to get on it, because at the time I watched it.
Yeah. I've heard 2 different reactions. I've asked 2 different people about it. One person was like, I hate that movie so much. And another one was like, oh my God, I love that movie. It makes me laugh every single time I watch it. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that doesn't help me.
That's the movie we're looking for. No, that's the thing. If you can divide opinion like that, I mean, it's worth looking into for sure. And it's
for sure.
I remember loving this movie. I remember absolutely loving this movie. And I think it's because everyone in this movie had recognizable stars that I noticed. And I was of that age where I was like, oh, you can have multiple people that I know because they're all on a boat. It's all on one location. They're all interlinking with each other. They all have diverse opinions. So that's sort of what makes the movie quite good. Like, if you take the snake away from this movie, it still kind of works. I think the added mystique of the snake is actually kind of, it accelerates the movie, and I think that's what they've done so well in this film.
Yeah. I would be like remiss to like mention that it spawned 3 sequels. There are 3 other Anaconda movies, just in case anybody wants to, hop in.
Deep dive that real quick.
I wouldn't recommend it. I mean, they're pretty.
I have seen them all, unfortunately, because I love the first one so much. Because I was holding on to nostalgia. I was holding on to something, and I thought, okay, maybe they could do it again. And the third one has David Hasselhoff in it, so I was like, oh god.
Yes, it does. I think there should have been a red flag for you that it wasn't going to be great.
yeah. I was like, right, I'm committed. I'm going. But the second one that spawned out, I think, The Hunt for the Wild Orchids. That was actually okay. That was quite grounded because there's this whole theory, and the story was actually quite good because anacondas grow until they die, and then there's this orchid in the jungle that apparently gives you the fountain of youth. So the anacondas have been eating these flowers and haven't died, so they keep growing bigger and bigger, which explains why they're so big. And so there was this backstory about these scientists explaining that, and that had some depth to it. But the execution later on in the third act didn't come through. So it tried and failed 3 or 4 times, but the second one was okay. But yeah, none of them came close to the first one for sure.
I will say that this movie is the first movie that I have ever watched that a quote has stuck with me since I watched it. And it is when Terri asked Sarone, go to Mateo, and Sarone just goes, maybe some other time.
So
I paused the movie and had to go back just to make sure I heard it correctly. I was like, what do you mean maybe some other time? Like that stuck with me the entire time. So I was like, you know what?
Chill. Sarone is just chill. John Voight is the reason this movie is so
He's
good.
just vibing, yeah.
He just doesn't care. He's
Just maybe some other time.
So-
Okay.
definitely my spirit animal in some terms. He's like, I just don't care. Like,
So my last question, given Anaconda, is: we give Anaconda credit for what would become like Deep Blue Sea and Lake Placid and these other movies that essentially would come out, in the years following, which it's just giant animals killing people? Or do we have to go all the way back to Jurassic Park? Did that start the late 90s big budget creature feature?
That's a very good question.
Because Jurassic Park was 93 and this was 97?
Yeah, 97. And you have Congo in the middle. And Congo's directly because a Michael Crichton movie was so popular. And so, but it's like, Jurassic Park, though, is not a horror. Congo's technically kind of a horror movie. So, I mean, it's like, it's kind of weird.
All 3 have a lineage of being more of an adventure movie. Like, it's not a straight up horror movie per se. I would say Lake Placid might lean more into that. But I think that Anaconda may not. I think Jurassic Park started this idea of like adventures involving animals and exotic animals, but I think Anaconda might have been the one that shifted gears a bit and went, okay, no one can do Jurassic Park again. That's not going to happen. So let's just go our own way, have fun with it. And I think that's where there was the shift into the further movies like Lake Placid that came after it and Deep Blue Sea.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
I think a good thing to say about that, I think with Spielberg, with Jaws and Jurassic Park, I think when introducing dinosaurs and sharks, I think he made it more grounded with the story. And when you see the creatures, they weren't necessarily antagonistic. They were more of a spectacle, even though, the whole point is Jaws is eating the people and at the end, the T-Rex and the Velociraptors. But the way he directed the movie, they become spectacles, not something you need to be scared of. Like the first time you see the Brontosaurus and the first time you get that famous quote in Jaws. But with Anaconda, this one sort of more replicates, I'd say, Alien, maybe the first movie. A tight-knit crew going somewhere. And you've got it's almost serpent-like. I mean, they call them serpents in Alien versus Predator, but I'm not trying to say that, but the logistics of the crew, the people, how that the director's choosing to show this animalistic creature, I think, is more Aliens than Spielberg-ish for me. And I think that's where they were trying to go. And I don't know. And I think Deep Blue Sea sort of follows Spielberg more than they follow Ridley Scott's sort of vision of monster movies. So it's interesting.
Yeah, and then I think also the thing that you have to like give Anaconda credit for, and like certain horror movies do this, but not a lot, is that it has the monster, but it also has the human villain that's pushing everyone towards the monster. You know, because most people would just run away from a 40-foot snake, but then you have a guy holding you at gunpoint saying, "No, we're going to go towards the 40-foot snake." You know, and so it's got that element to it. All right,
this
so
movie did.
go ahead.
Just one quick note. I was going to say this movie did make back its budget of $45 million. The box office was $136 million domestically.
There you go. That's how you get sequels.
So it made money.
So,
yeah, maybe
sequels.
Yeah. So, how does this movie change going from 1997 to 2014, other than the aforementioned J-Lo's too big for her britches in this movie now? So.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think when you take it into a year where it is just chaotic, like everyone's doing something that's quite new and innovative, it's just, I think it's in the right year because this is the year Godzilla comes out. This is the one where they sort of reinvent what Godzilla is, which is quite coincidental because Roland Emmerich's Godzilla comes out a year after the original. So I think what they can do in 2014, which they didn't really know what to do with the snake in the original, was keep it consistent because you had real snakes, you had animatronics, you had CGI, and you had a mashup of all three of them. And some of it worked and some of it didn't really do great with the special effects. So that's the obvious sort of change. The how do you show the snake? How do you reveal the snake as well?
Yeah, I think that's the big difference here is that I think if in 2014 you can't get away with like that kind of CGI, but it was also the 90s, so that CGI kind of like that was rampant everywhere because like you were saying, Ash, in Jaws we don't see the shark well into the movie and it's a big moment. Jurassic Park, it's a lead up to the Brontosaurus, it's a lead up to the raptors and the T-Rex. Even with this you get that lead up in the original movie, but then when the snake is finally shown, it's just kind of like it's a very very disappointing kind of because it's a hodgepodge of these different techniques. So I think that moving in this era, in this year, if you want to make it a more that rise above the B movie status, you have to have a consistency level there. I think for me, I'm a fan of when they don't show the monster as little as possible. So I think that's a smart technique to use. Maybe some POV of the snake swimming through the water, attacking its enemies, and it'll be a little faster now versus the 90s equipment they had back then.
Yeah, 100%.
And you also, with this particular movie, the Sci-Fi Channel are starting to make movies like that. So you have the Sharknado movies that have officially came out because that came out in 2013. So the second movie that came out, Z Nation, has also came out in 2014. So if you want it over the top, then yes, you would almost have to have that sort of consistency. Otherwise, it is going to be bought by like Sci-Fi just because it gives off that same vibe where it's
Sharknado.
Like, sharks in a tornado just eating people through the air. Like it's just that was kind of what was going through my head the entire discussion. That's what's going to make it different. Is
that's a really
would Sci-Fi buy it? Would the Asylum?
Would only Sci-Fi buy it?
I feel like Cassidy just ruined the episode. Like it's like we're just Anaconda's now just a Sci-Fi straight to like TV.
It's
like
a Sci-Fi original.
It's
like someone watched Sharknado last year and went, "Wait, what if we threw a lot of money at something like this?"
It's kind of like that. It's like,
but it's just that Sci-Fi has been doing they still do it. It's just that's the issue with like horror movies now is that it's going to go to that because they're going to come up with the craziest ideas. Where it's Sharknado, it's tarantulas, it's going to be just like with zombies. And
It's
Yeah.
and
definitely
that's the really good thing about those movies. Like and I enjoy those movies. The
I do too.
Sharknadoes
Yeah.
and I think what they're trying to do there is they're trying to reinvent the '90s special effects, which is quite ironic.
Correct.
What we're doing as well, because people still enjoy those movies despite the bad special effects, despite the really obscure concept. So what we're doing is we're taking that film that they are doing those movies about and bringing it to that year that they are ripping it about, and we're going to make it more grounded, sophisticated. And again, it all comes down to who you put in the movie, who's directing it, who watches it, and how you reveal the snake. Like Nick's got a great point there. Like if you show the snake in the first 2 seconds, then there's no foreplay to it at all. There's no foreplay to the movie, so there's no build up, and it kind of diminishes it. The thing that the 1997 movie did, it does show the snake, but it gets better. You see more and more of it as the movie ends. So the bit where you see John Voight get regurgitated, that's the bit you're sort of waiting for.
You're in the snake.
Exactly, and you get closer and closer to the snake as the movie ends. So I thought that was a really good way of doing it. But yeah, no, it's a good point, Cass, with the Sharknado movies out.
I always somehow ruin the podcast. Like I always ruin the
We're not taking it there. We're not.
It was an excellent point, though. Like it is. Like it'd be hard to sell this movie in 2014 and not have every studio go, you need to go to sci-fi, and they're probably going to turn the Anaconda into a zombie with centipede legs, and so it's just like.
Well, I think we're in this era of horror, especially like Ash brought up earlier. There's a lot of up and coming directors, and what was that? Was it
elevated?
What's the term for the horror? Elevated horror. So you have extreme Sharknado, and then you have stuff like The Babadook and A Girl Walks Alone at Night. So I think really there's this bipolar extremes going on right now, where people are saying either let's just go nuts or let's make something and really have like a thought process or a theme and something to discuss going on during this movie.
Yeah.
Well,
and if you actually, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, like, if you look at 2014 as a year, it's actually quite dark, like in terms of like all the good movies that are commercially accepted now, like really dark films. And I'm looking at the global, like the worldwide gross. This is the first year since 1997 that there were no animated movies in the top 10. That's a long time for an animated film not to be in the top 10. And that's because of films like, American Sniper on one end, then you've got Interstellar, then you've got your sequels, then you've got the Babadooks, the It Follows, the, these new people coming on like Whiplash, Ex Machina, and it is in every genre. It's not just biopics or horror or comedy, it's every genre. Monster movies are coming out, Godzilla's coming out. So it's such a big year for this movie to come out. So it's interesting to see where it goes, left or right, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, that brings us to, if we really want to know what this movie is going to look like in 2014, who do you think would direct Anaconda in 2014? Any ideas?
Nick?
When I was looking at when I was envisioning this movie, the way I kind of saw it could go is very, because it is horror, but it's also, like we said, it's in that same vein as Jurassic Park, Congo, where it's this jungle adventure basically. And in my mind, I said, I know it's an overused term, but a gritty kind of dirty look to it would be a lot of fun. But sadly, Tony Scott passed away like 2 years before this, or else I would have been like, that's the dude. Put him in, make it look grimy and just like everyone's sweating to death. Like, let's just go for it. But I think Paul Greengrass would be an interesting choice. He's the dude that did the Bourne movies and Captain Phillips and United 93. And the reason that I kept touching on him was because you're talking about a snake that constricts people and suffocates them and snaps them in half, basically. So I think he does a great job of creating tension in movies, and especially United 93, where you're on this plane, there's a lot of tension to try and stop these people from hijacking the plane. So I think he could probably deliver a good sense of like that urgency and terror of like being captured by the snake and being suffocated, basically.
That's a good choice. What about you, Cass?
Well, not to bring it back to the sci-fi thing, but Only because I was trying to get into the mindset of the whole comedy horror, and there just wasn't that many, in my opinion, in 2014. But besides the Sharknadoes, so I went with one of the directors of Sharknado, which is Anthony C. Ferrante, because you're gonna get that out there. Because the Sharknado movies actually are not that bad. The first movie is actually probably the better one because it's actually a little more serious. The other ones is when it starts to get a little like, what the hell were they doing? They were just doing whatever. But I was also, it was.
Okay.
I definitely struggled with who
Yeah.
to
I mean,
put for this.
I'm still trying to wrap my hands around the word serious and Sharknado in the same sentence.
I felt like they tried to be serious in the first movie, at least.
I do know what you're saying. The first 45 minutes of Sharknado is actually a good contention for a good sci-fi movie, and then it just explodes after that. Yeah,
I would just like to point out that Nick and I are on the other side of that line, and Cass and Ash's comments don't necessarily reflect those of Quantum Recast, the property.
Hey, I'm throwing her a bone, Corey.
It's fine.
But I get what you're saying, Cass. I get what you're saying. What about you, Corey? Would you have a director in mind for this?
Well, for me, it's like it depends on what do I want to concentrate on. If I just want like a strict creature feature, like just give it to Guillermo del Toro or Peter Jackson. Like they're gonna make a good creature feature. But if I wanted like a movie about the people on the boat, give me Rian Johnson. Like give me the guy that can do all-star casts and like just give me that. But if I could
literally just looking that up.
If I could choose anyone to capture the aura of a creature feature, like just a movie about a bunch of people being terrorized by an oversized animal, give me Quentin Tarantino. He's going to capture the golden age of creature features, like that 70s piranha, giant spider type of movie. Like he's just going to have seen probably all of them and just give me that.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah.
I feel like he would somehow have Kurt Russell for Sarone. Just
of course
give the vibe of like Death Proof.
Yeah.
And it'd be amazing.
It would be amazing. He would break the fourth wall and look at the camera.
He's so good. But what about you, Ash? You got anyone?
I mean, I was playing around a few ideas in my head. I think for me, I in my direction, I would like to keep this film quite cinematic and quite dramatic. I didn't want there to be any comedic elements to it, maybe a few one-liners, but that's it. So I'd probably get someone like Danny Boyle or Ron Howard behind the wheels of this film, because both those directors can handle small casts in a big movie like Apollo 13 and Sunshine. Big ensemble cast, but all done in one location. And they're very good at connecting the dots from scene to scene. Like their flow in their films are so well done. Like I watched 13 Lives the other day about the 13 kids that got stuck in a cave, and that's a Ron Howard film. Beautifully done. Yeah. And so and both directors have done pretty much every genre under the sun. So I think, and neither of them have actually done a monster movie. So it would be interesting for them to sort of just take their... It's definitely something, it's more grounded if it's one of those two though, because I don't think it would become either a horror or a comedy. I think it'd find a place just in between if it was Ron Howard or Danny Boyle. And for Danny Boyle, it might be a bit more arty, a bit more cannibal Holocaust kind of thing. You know, people stuck in the jungle, and you get in that sort of horror vibe to it. With Ron Howard, it might be more family friendly. So, yeah, maybe one of those two, somewhere in between them two, maybe.
Yeah, I think just given what you already said about 2014, that like every kind of movie under the sun is coming out in 2014, and they're all well done. It just depends. The question of director is just like, what kind of movie do you want, and we can find you the director that'll give it to you. You know,
yeah.
I mean, Cass, if she you could get Edgar Wright if you wanted like a comedy horror, and it would be great. You know, like you would. I mean, you'd have to sit through Simon Pegg and that other guy, Nick Frost, but like, you know, like, but they would do fine. It would be great.
Yeah.
It'd be fun, it'd be like, so you could kind of do whatever you wanted in 2014 with Anaconda. And it'd probably it'd just keep Richard Linklater away from it and we're good. So
we can all agree. I want to watch the snake grow up.
So, all right. Well, that is 2014. That is Anaconda, which means we've got to cast Anaconda in 2014.
2014.
Baymax. You've won the mountain, is that not enough?
Star-Lord. Who? Star-Lord, man. Legendary outlaw.
You have arrived.
Woo-wee. Before we do that, there are rules. Ash, you chose this movie, so you're serving as the director. You've sent a cast list to Nick and Cass, and they have prepared a 2014 appropriate cast for Anaconda. But they are bound by rules. Rule number 1, anyone they choose to cast in Anaconda 2014 must be alive in 2014. They cannot be deceased. We are time travelers, but we do not bring people back from the dead. Rule number 2, anyone they cast in Anaconda 2014 must be free to do so. They cannot be incarcerated or in prison or anything like that. Wesley Snipes would probably be unavailable in 2014. I believe he was in prison for tax evasion. So,
lovely.
He's off the board. Anyone they cast in Anaconda 2014 must be active. They must have at least one acting credit in 2014 or prior to. They cannot have started after 2014. And then finally, anyone they cast in Anaconda 2014 will lose all major film roles that they are in 2014 because we're selfish. We don't allow our actors to do more than one film a year. And so that's where the stakes come in. And we've already, as we said, Ash is pretty, he kind of loves 2014. So guys, tread carefully. Tread carefully. Ash, just in case they don't, you have 2 power-ups. You have the old switcheroo, which means at any point in the casting, even all the way up until the end, you can retroactively switch any 2 actors that have been put on the board in the roles they've been casted in. And then you have the huge one, the power or the override. You can pretty much tell Cass and Nick they blew it to screw off and put your own actor. You're still bound by their rules though, but you can put your own actor in at any role while casting that specific role. It must be done during that particular character. Everyone on board? Everyone got it?
Aye, Captain.
I'm ready.
You guys ready?
Let's
All right.
sail the Amazon.
As per usual, we have to do our 30 seconds or less. These are characters that we love, but they're just not in the movie enough for us to spend a whole lot of time talking about, or they just didn't quite make the cut. Those characters are Unknown Victim 2 and Unknown Victim 1. Come on, scriptwriter, give people names. The Anaconda voice, because the Anaconda does speak.
A lot of hissing.
So, the poacher, Mateo and Denise Kahlberg, who is our only main documentary crew member who doesn't quite make the cut, unfortunately. Unknown Victim 1 and Unknown Victim 2, we do not know who plays them. We do not have names for that. Frank Welker does the hissing for Anaconda. Danny Trejo plays the poacher. Vincent Castellanos plays Mateo, and Carrie Wooer plays Denise Kahlberg. So just want to give them a shout out for the tremendous work they did in the movie Anaconda. All right, guys.
Amazing.
Well, how this is going to go is Ash is going to say the name. You guys are going to speed cast. There's not going to be a lot of discussion there, and Ash will just speed choose. So, Ash, I'm handing it over to you for the 30 seconds or less round.
I just want to reiterate, this is 30 seconds or less, guys, not 20 minutes or less.
We
Got
have
it.
Yeah, Nick.
Lovely.
never
And
done
just
this
to
in 30
Nick.
seconds.
just to re-clarify, the unknown victims, that's just dealer's choice, right, Ash?
That's correct. Whoever
Okay.
you
Any-
see fit.
anybody-
I want a good explanation for it, but yeah, dealer's choice.
Oh, I'm excited for mine.
Okay, all right. Okay.
This is where I get a vibe of where you're taking this movie in 2014.
All right, okay.
All right, okay. Nick, Cass, you both ready?
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, okay. So, unknown victim number 2, we're going to go Nick.
J. Baruchel, suck it, Cass.
Why did I know you were going to do that?
Okay. Cass, who you got?
John C. Reilly.
Not John C. Reilly.
Ooh. Okay. Okay.
Because my victim number... Yep.
Okay. I like John C. Reilly. He was in the King Kong movie. He's definitely got victim written all over him. Jay reminds me of Justin Long too much. Not the vibe I want to go for. I'm going to go John C. Reilly. Okay. Cass, you got that one. Unknown victim number 1, Cass.
Will Ferrell.
Oh, God.
Taking out Step Brothers.
Nick, toss Jay back out.
Nick, please salvage this one, please.
J. Abrams.
Ooh, I like a director's cameo. I really enjoy
Yeah,
that.
you do.
Yeah, and if even just Will Ferrell, no, just no. He's bringing a vibe down for the tone I want for this movie. No, I'll go J.J. Abrams for that one easily. Okay, Anaconda voice, Nick.
Jim Cummings of Winnie the Pooh Lion King fame.
Okay. Yeah, okay. Voice actor by trade. Okay. Cass?
Gideon Emery, who voiced Krampus in 2015.
Oh,
Krampus.
He has a very British and deep voice.
I know. Are you playing to my heart?
wow.
And he's tattooed on my arm.
I've listened to both these voices. I'm going to go for Gideon.
Yes!
I'm sorry. Both are very good. Both are very good. Okay, right. Moving on to our poacher, played expertly by Danny Trejo. Cass.
George Lopez.
George Lucas.
Lopez.
George Lopez. Wait, we're going for George Lopez. Not George. Who are we going for? George Lucas or George Lopez?
George Lopez. But now I'm curious about George Lucas.
Either is interesting.
Yeah. Nick?
I put Samuel L. Jackson, and he has to almost say the F word as he pulls the trigger. So at the end.
Oh,
That's
man.
good. That's good.
I like Samuel just because he can put on his CV that he's been eaten by a shark and a snake, because in Snakes on a Plane he survives. So,
Right.
I have to have a big name.
You're seeing it.
Samuel
You're
Jackson.
seeing it. There you go.
I see it. He has to have shark and snake on his CV. Okay, got it. And lastly, Denise Kalberg. Nick.
Oh, we skipped
Mateo.
Mateo.
Oh no, sorry. Sorry, we'll go. So I'll do that again. Mateo, and we'll go with Nick.
Jordi Moya. He's just that dude in Bad Boys 2, Blow, and Riddick. He's one of those guys you recognize when you see him.
Yeah. Honestly, when I looked this guy up, I thought that was the guy who played
He looks
Mateo.
just like him.
He does. I had to double check because I was like, did he play Mateo?
I was like, Nick, are you doing some kind of like meta thing going on? I was like, that is
That's
the
so
guy.
funny.
No, but he's like the bad guy in Bad Boys 2.
Yeah.
Cool actor. Okay, Cass, who have you got for me for Mateo?
I went weird. I went Stephen Ogg, who is Trevor Phillips in Grand Theft Auto 5, but he's also Simon in The Walking
Simon
Dead.
from Walking Dead.
Yep.
Yes. He's got that creepy vibe
Yep.
about him.
Yep.
Yeah, and he's quite tall as well.
Yep.
And yeah. Okay. No, you know what? Because he's not in the movie a lot. I am gonna go Stephen Ogg because I do like that creepy vibe that he's.
I just want it to be known I'm winning my gamer mood right now.
It's not about winning; it's about getting the right cast, Cass. But yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm winning personally, not the podcast, just personally.
And our last one, Denise Kalberg on a 30 seconds or less. Cass, who have you got?
Annabelle Wallace from Annabelle. She's also in Peaky Blinders. Yep.
Yeah, I like her. Very big fan of her. Nick?
Alexandra Daddario.
Ooh.
Oh, Daddario. See, I know Annabelle from Peaky Blinders, and she's got that really tough streak about her, and I need that to be dumbed down for this character, and I think Alex definitely has that naivety about her, so I'm going to go Alex.
Was she really
for this one.
smart in Annabelle?
She's weird. She is pretty ruthless in Annabelle. Peaky Blinders, though, I can't stop seeing her in that, though. She's too tough.
I hated her in that movie, or in that show.
Yeah, I'll go Alex. I'll go Alex with that one.
I can't say. She's beautiful.
Okay, that was the right choice.
And
All right.
yeah.
Okay, that was a successful 30
All
seconds
right.
or less. I guess J.J. Abrams is directing this. No one brought him up, but I guess he's going to direct this movie.
No, he's just there to die. That's it.
Nope.
So.
Director cameo means he's directing the movie. That's how director cameos work.
No,
You blew it, Nick. Nope.
not quite.
Lots of lists.
He was on.
Director.
It's a Bad Robots production, so
tons of lens
he's
flare.
just helping.
Just
We got
all
Matt
over
Reeves
this
jumping
movie.
into this one then.
Oh, all right. Okay, that brings us to the top cast. Here's where we're the meat of the cast. We're really gonna dive in and have a little bit of discussion here for Anaconda 2014. That will be Gary Dixon, played by Owen Wilson, Warren Westridge, played by Jonathan Cadbury Hyde, Dr. Stephen Cale, played by Eric Stoltz, Danny Rich, played by Ice Cube, Paul Sarone, played by John Voight, and Terry Flores, played by Jennifer Lopez. Before we dive into this, can I ask a question? Is this the worst documentary film crew of all time? Because
Yes.
they stop filming when things start getting really good.
Really good.
Like, I feel like the whole movie should have been like Jennifer Lopez telling my Ice Cube, pick up the camera. Like, I get it. Your subject,
Like no one was recording anything, really. You're just
your,
there.
your subject changed by all means. It's no longer this lost Amazonian tribe you went out to. But once you get hijacked by a crazy guy and he's making you like, and like a giant
You need
snake
that proof.
stalking you, it's like, dude, this is going to to be great. Like, don't stop filming.
This is going to make so much money.
Well, how do you think they explained it when they got back home? Because they went with Mateo and Owen Wilson and them, and come back with them not there. How are you going to explain that?
That's the next movie.
You know what this movie? You know what character is missing from this movie? It's the character from Nope, the obsessed filmmaker that's like, I have to get the shot of the snake.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
I
Yep.
mean,
The shot.
maybe that was Eric Stoltz, and for whatever reason, he's just not in the movie. Like, I don't know why this movie has a character that's just incapacitated the whole damn time.
I was wondering the same thing.
It's odd. It's like Eric Stoltz.
Maybe he's really like the snake charmer or something. Maybe
Yeah.
he's instigating the snakes, because you never see a snake and Eric Stoltz in the same shot in the entire movie.
No, you didn't.
If
He
Eric
and the
Stoltz,
snake
No,
are
because
the
he got
same person.
taken down by a wasp.
I
Yeah,
think
a wasp.
I think if he was awake the whole time, he would have been telling Ice Cube to shoot. Like, just let's get all this, you know.
Yeah, get that camera on.
And then and John Voight's gonna be like, "You can't film me. I'm holding you hostage." Like, you're gonna be a star, dude. Just go with it. Like, so- all right. We're gonna start at the bottom with Gary Dixon, played by Owen Wilson.
Well, I mean, the way I figure it, with Cale messed up, I mean, the movie's off. Why not salvage something? Let's film Sarone capturing a big snake.
Have you lost your mind?
Have I lost my mind? No, I haven't lost my mind. If anything, I'm completely lucid right now. I think it's you guys who need to open up your eyes.
I don't even know how I can explain the character. It's Owen Wilson. It's the laid back. Is he stoned? He's the sound guy. He's like every sound guy on any production. Just kind of the California stoner, conflicted. Also, not very loyal. He betrays his entire crew and joins up with Sarone at some point. He kind of gets into the idea of, I don't know who wrote all this, but we have decided if they live or die, in which death is the worst. He gets third worst. He does not survive the movie, and he has the third worst death, according to someone who wrote all this in the Google sheet.
I believe it was Ash.
Okay, Ash is determined.
Yeah, I think he had the third one.
Third worst.
I was going in.
Third worst death. Gary Dixon. So Ash, I'm handing it over to you.
All right, Gary Dixon, bottom of the 6 that we're doing, but actually quite one of the most interesting characters because he switches sides halfway through the movie. So, okay, I'm looking for, and like I said at the start, this is very gender fluid. You can go in any direction with this as long as you can explain yourself for the tone of this movie.
Nice.
So I'm going to go with Cass for Gary Dixon. Who have you got?
So Gary
for the sound.
Gary was
guy.
actually the hardest one, and I don't know why his like picking someone for him was so hard for me, because I was really trying to dive into his character. Because like when you first meet him, he just seems like that like lovable boyfriend to Denise, and I just was trying to later on try to get into the mindset of, okay, who could get manipulated that well enough to change sides, but then at the end go and save his girlfriend. Like no matter what, his loyalty was to still go save his girlfriend from getting eaten by an anaconda and dies instead. So I went a weird pick. He's not doing anything in 2014 besides a TV show. But I went Jared Padalecki, Mr. Sam Winchester. Okay. And I only went him because of him being that lovable character, but then also being able to be manipulated and change sides. Like he can switch instantly, like become this charming guy to, oh yeah, by the way, we're going to listen to them.
Yeah, and he's definitely, I'm looking at him now, he's definitely a very good looking guy. And Owen Wilson, he basically plays the lovable fuck up in every film he does. So, and I can see that in Jared right now, and he definitely fits the persona. I actually saw him in House of Wax, a film that came out a long time ago. I remember him
2005, I think it came out.
Yeah, I like Jared. I like him a lot. He's very on the nose with Owen Wilson. He's quite vulnerable as well as good looking. He has a bit of a bite to him. Yeah. Okay, I like that as well. Okay. Nick, who have you got for Gary, famously played by Owen
So I kind of went in a different direction. I didn't see him as like the lovable, likable person. I saw him as more like the screw up, like easily about the money and stuff, and that he just brings Alexandra Daddario's Denise on the trip because, hey, I'm in the jungle and I want to have somebody to make out with. So I went with a guy that just got hot off of one of the bigger TV shows at the time. This is supposed to be his breakout year into film, but he kind of just falls flat on his face to an extent. Like none of the movies he's in really take off. I like one of them, Exodus Gods and Kings, but I'm giving you Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad fame. This year he's supposed to do Need for Speed, was like his big starring role, but that just fell apart. It was like a Fast and Furious ripoff. He does consistent work after this, but he never really reaches that height of popularity like he did in Breaking Bad. So I'm giving him a bone here, but I also think that he can portray this role pretty well as more of kind of the guy who's just there for the hell of it. And then once our villain gives him the opportunity of like, you can make a lot of money with this, he's like, no, this guy makes a lot of sense. Like we could be rich. Like let's do this. You know, how hard is it?
Yeah.
I kind of see him abandoning. Yeah. I see his Denise as being like, this is the flavor of the month for him, basically.
I like both, and they're both very different. With Owen Wilson, it was very hard to see him be authoritative after knowing what he did in the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So people didn't really know what Owen Wilson was about in 1997. Yeah. So when he was parlaying with Jon Voight and becoming quite authoritative with Ice Cube, it's interesting to watch. He pulled it off in a way. I mean, he did Behind Enemy Lines 3 years later with Gene Hackman, but you know, he has that in his arsenal. Aaron Paul definitely has grit to him, so he definitely would have more of a convincing part to play in when he switched sides. When did Breaking Bad finish?
In 2013. So this is like...
So this is the year after. Right. Okay. So he's already established and everyone already knows his face. With Jared, it's less likely people will recognize him, but he's got a very good
problem
face.
With both of our picks is that it's just it's hard for these TV actors to make their way into film, and especially Jared specifically, because the horror films that he has been in, like House of Wax and Friday the 13th, the remake in 2009, they just didn't do well for him to still be notable. But that's how I knew Jared, was the Friday the 13th remake. And he was good at it. It's just, of course, the remake is a little weird to begin with, but he still did phenomenal. But it's that not that many people would know him. I also like the Aaron Paul pick because I think that one's good, and he's still like a lovable character, because I know a lot of people liked his character in Breaking Bad. So
I think it's a good role for this type of
I'll tell you what,
person because these type of actors, because it rather than making them the lead in a movie, it's a chance for them to ease into film.
yeah,
No, for sure. And you hit the nail on the head. You've both picked two quite big TV actors as well. One more recognizable than the other. I'll tell you what I'm going to do here, though. If I saw Jared in the movie and I saw him getting onto the boat, I would tell you he's going to die very soon. I just know he's going to die. He's too good looking, and so with his role on the boat, I just know it's going to happen. When I watched Anaconda for the first time, I already knew a bit about Owen Wilson, so I wasn't completely sure he was going to die, but I had an inkling. Aaron Paul as well. He's quite a small fella as well, but he's got such a presence to him, and I'm quite convinced he will pull some heartstrings into the movie when he goes and saves her after he jumps ship as well, because that was a really heroic moment. Because that's also a good thing as well. He does change sides, but at the same time, he does save the girl from the snake at the end. So he does go out with some dignity. So in that aspect, I am going to pick Aaron Paul, but I do really like both picks, just to say that out loud. But yeah, Aaron Paul for sure.
Okay, that was very diplomatic and not controversial at all. Okay, let's, that brings us to Warren Westbridge, originally played by Jonathan Hyde, most notably Cadbury of the Richie Rich movie from the 90s.
And Jumanji.
The dad in Jumanji.
Our adventure begins 1,000 miles from the mouth of the mighty Amazon, deep in the heart of the rainforest. From here we will travel by river barge up through shallow tributaries and unexplored backwaters in search of the elusive people of the mist, the Shirishama tribe.
Warren Westbridge, because Jonathan Hyde is playing him again, it's a lot like Owen Wilson. Just think about any movie he's ever been in, and he's doing that. He is posh and articulate and upper class. He is the contrast to like who should be on a boat in the Amazon. He's constantly hitting golf balls off the back and talking about how he wishes he was somewhere much nicer than in the on the Amazon River. I'm assuming he's like the producer, like he's the money of the documentary.
He's the money.
So, he also does not survive, and Ash has given him second worst death. It's kind of the most badass death.
He's like the saddest one.
The dude tries to like off himself, but he's basically like, screw this, and tries to jump on the snake's like, nope.
Yeah. If he had a gun, he would have shot it.
Yep. So that would be Warren Westbridge. Ash, over to you, buddy.
All right, Warren Westbridge. Personal favorite character of mine. I love Jonathan Hyde. I mean, I think he was having the run of the year in the mid-90s. Yeah. Titanic, The Mummy, Jumanji, Richie Rich. I mean, I don't know what happened to him really, but he had a good 4 years.
Good run there.
He had a great 4 years. Great run, and of course, Anaconda. So I'm looking for someone who's making a stamp in 2014. So, Nick, you got the last one. Who have you got for Herbert Cadbury, a.k.a. Westbridge?
I'm changing it up just a little bit. So I'm going a little younger, and I'm going to give you someone who has just come on the scene in 2008 with Slumdog Millionaire, but I'm going to give you Dev Patel in this role. And I think that you put him in this, and he can play the posh character that comes from money. And this year he's doing a movie called The Road Within, and then he's on The Newsroom, the TV show. But I think Dev Patel has that range to go from playing someone like he did in Slumdog Millionaire, and then we see him in playing a knight, literally in The Green Knight from last year, or was that 2 years ago? Time is a flat circle. But I think that he has the capability to kind of come off as like, I'm just here because I think it's a fun idea. I think we're going to make a lot of money off this, and then when shit hits the fan, he's very much like, I just want to be back home in my silk sheets and my hot tub and just with champagne, like get me out of here, basically. And while he has the ability to, like we've seen in The Green Knight, to play the strong hero that makes the tough decision, he also has the ability to play the weaker type of character that's really ready to like bail at any moment.
Yeah. No, that's a very, very interesting pick, Nick. And
you
we'll come
like
back to
went
that
with
in a
almost
second.
like the pig pick, like the Nicolas Cage movie, where I felt like I can't think of the actor's name right now, and he's like in the. Thank
Alex
you.
Wolff.
How I feel like they played his character in that movie a lot older than what he was. So that's like the mindset that I was getting was like almost that sort of vibe of Alex Wolff. So that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah. But Cass, back over to you. Who have you got for Mr.
So
Westbridge?
my pick is 55 years old. I was actually really proud of this pick. I don't know why. I think it's just because it was instant where I was trying to get in that same vibe as Jonathan Hyde. I went with Hugh Laurie, who is House, and later on, 2 years after, is in The Night Manager, who kind of gives off that same vibe with Tom Hiddleston.
I need to
recommend
watch that.
his.
Yeah, I need to watch
It's actually really good. I think they both do really good together.
Nice.
I watched it for Tom Hiddleston. We're not that surprised, but Hugh Laurie just kind of like gives off that like posh vibes. I could just see him like hitting off like the golf balls and stuff, and just kind of, I don't want to say he's being a dick, but like he's just kind of being like, you know, you're here because of me. I paid for this. But then also still giving off that like that sensitive, not sensitive, but just the sincere side of like actually wanting to like stop what's his name, Sarone. So no. So Cass, you've actually got a really good pick. Like you've hit the nose on the head. I love it. I've seen Hugh Laurie. It's a great pick. I can't really fault it. And I've seen Hugh Laurie. There's a film called Flight of the Phoenix.
Oh, it's a good one.
Quaid, and he's in that, and he's part of that movie too. And he's also, you know, in the background crew as well. He's not one of the main cast, and he does have a freak out in that movie as well. And this is what happened to Jonathan Hyde and Anaconda. However, that being said, Dave Patel is also interesting, and he was in the newsroom. I think Aaron Sorkin wrote that. I think it's better than The West Wing in my opinion, but that's another debate. But here's the thing where I'm struggling with Dave Patel, but I love where you're going with it. I need some authority. He's the host of an Amazon documentary. I want him to square it with Ice Cube when it comes to the music. I need him to be posh. I can see all of that. I can see Dave doing that, and I like that you've gone somewhere different with it. I'm just trying to imagine Dave Patel squaring up with the other characters as well. And that's because I think I'm struggling with this one because Hugh Laurie is on the nose and I can't fault it. And I love House, which is annoying, and I'm trying not to make that.
Listen, being on the nose sometimes is not a bad thing. Like you want this type actor, you go for that type of actor. I get what you said. There's a culture clash with Jonathan Hyde and Ice Cube in the original movie, and not only culture but also age class, which is shown.
And I loved that clash. Yeah, the clash was good, and I'm trying to just envision what Dev Patel can put in there that Hugh couldn't be able to do, or what Jonathan Hyde couldn't be able to do, something new that he brings in, and I'm failing to see it, honestly. I really am. So I think with that, I am going to go with Hugh Laurie with that one. I think being like Nick, as you've said, being on the nose is not a bad thing, and Hugh Laurie's done this role before, and I think he'd be great in this role as well. So yeah, definitely. So Cass,
thank you.
Well done.
Moving on, I'm just the host. Dr. Stephen Cale.
I think we may have a chance.
Well, you get me there, and I'll shoot it.
I'm counting on that. That's why I hired you.
And I'm glad you did. I really appreciate it.
Well, I wanted the best director I could get. I think we'll make a good team.
Played by Eric Stoltz. Wow. Okay. Pull together, Corey. Pull together. You're not involved. You're not involved. Just a bystander. Dr. Stephen Cale, played by Eric Stoltz. Again, very weird role because he is the leader of this documentary crew. He is a doctor, so I'm assuming he knows, he's an anthropologist of some kind, going out there to study a lost Amazonian tribe. He is soft, kind, the leader, and he's a scientist. These are all quotes that I believe Ash, all descriptors Ash gave us. Again, he gets stung by a wasp and is out of the movie until all the danger is gone. And so it's a weird role. I think he's mostly there because it gives J-Lo something to protect. You know, it's you got a madman on one side of you, you got a giant snake on the other side of you, and you're hoping neither kills your incapacitated boyfriend who can't himself. So I guess that's the thing. So
You know what?
He's
His
the damsel in distress.
Yeah. You know what it also does? It kind of we talked about this a little bit when we recasted The Thing, where if you have a female on the team, it changes the dynamic of the entire crew, basically.
Yeah.
So in this context, having her already have a relationship with somebody and someone to protect immediately, to an extent, removes like any sexual tension amongst the crew members because they're like all friends, except for Sarone, who's the bad guy. And she actually uses her sexuality in a way to try to trick him to get the weapon and take over the ship again. So it helps change the dynamics a bit.
Yep. It's very interesting because it does flip the role there with the heroine protecting her man. So Anaconda, super progressive for 1997. Gonna fit right in 2014. We're definitely more about that. Hollywood has progressed by now. All right, yeah. I think it's also just weird that it's Eric Stoltz. I think that always throws me off. It's like, whoa, it's Eric Stoltz, and then he's like, oh, he's gonna be in bed the whole movie. All right.
Well, and then every time I see him, I was like, he looked familiar, and I feel like now I'm like traumatized by the character he played in The Butterfly Effect. So it was like I was trying to watch him as this charming guy, and I'm like, oh, you're the creepy dad in The Butterfly Effect.
Yep. All right.
It was
Well, Ash, it's over to you.
Yes, Mr. Eric Stoltz, who plays Dr. Stephen Cale. I'm looking for a leader. I'm looking for someone who's nice and soft. I'm looking for the El Capitan of the ship, in some sense, who's not actually in it for most of the movie.
Yep.
So it'll be an interesting pick. So,
yeah.
who won it last time? It was Cass with Hugh Laurie. Cass.
I never really looked
Fire
at it
away
in the
with
leader
your
role
pick for
only
Mr.
because he
Cale.
was out the entire time. He just went in the water once and I don't even know, was he really stung by the wasp, or I don't.
It got in his throat somehow.
Yeah.
Through the gut.
Oh wait, so Sarone says something about like he was the one that did it. Was it in the snorkel? He put the wasp in this. So he so he just breathed it in. Okay, that makes sense now. Okay.
Yeah, so Sarone put the wasp.
So I never really
in
thought of
his
it as
gear
like
and then gave
in that
him.
mindset. Like, yes, this is his show, but I wouldn't think of him as almost like that strict authority like Terri would probably end up being. And then of course like how Sarone acts, but I kind of stuck with the charming vibe. I don't. Mine's a little weird. He's 32. I believe he was doing a couple of things in 2014, but not notable. Like he didn't win anything for it, so to me, it doesn't matter. People would judge him most for being in the Dragon Ball Evolution movie. I know him more from Shameless, because he can play the charming, pull you in, lovable. I went Justin Chatwin. Yep.
Justin Chatwin. I know him. He was Robbie in War of the Worlds. He was the really obscure, loud son that Tom Cruise was like,
at that time.
You go fight that war, but leave me behind.
Interesting.
Yeah, I remember him. And he's 32 years old. Okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to park that for 2 minutes.
Corey, don't hate me.
With his pick.
I pulled someone from a movie Corey brought up earlier.
Who have you got?
But I think he fits this. He's a name, but I think it's someone that's recognizable. And when he goes down in the movie, someone's like, oh no, we really liked him. but he has those soft tendencies, the kind, but he also has leadership qualities. We just saw him, some of us did this year recently, last month, in Dungeons and Dragons. Chris Pine. He was in Into the Woods this year as one of the princes in one of the standout scenes, I would say, in the movie, called the Agony song sequence, which is pretty great. But he's also in Horrible Bosses 2, Jack Ryan's Shadow Recruit, where he tried to take on that franchise and it fell apart. So I said, let's put him in the jungle and get stung by a wasp inadvertently and lie on a couch for a week instead of singing a magical song. So
you're going to take him out of all of that?
He's not going to be... I think... Go ahead, Ash. Go ahead. He's in all of those films this year, but Horrible Bosses 2 wasn't as big as the first one. Jack Ryan didn't take off. Into the Woods was the biggest prominent thing. Cory is trying to keep his opinions to himself, but we can tell it's very hard. Of a breakdown, so.
Just so we're aware, Justin Chatwin was only in Bang Bang Baby, which is a Canadian film, and he was nominated for a Canadian Screen Award, so I was like, that's not that important.
Canadian awards aren't real.
Canadian Screen Award for Best Actor in a Supporting Role.
Are you trying to make an argument for or against him?
I'm saying that he was only in one movie where you just named off 20 from Chris Pine.
Yeah, Chris Pine's super popular.
And you're taking him out of it to put him in a bed for the whole movie.
For 75% of the movie. It's a chill job.
All right.
I don't envy Ash.
Let's settle down here, guys. All right. Let me do some thinking here. Okay. Chris Pine is a name. You've said that correctly. He is a name, and that is what is attractive about him. He's a very attractive guy, and he does have that soft quality to him. Like in Wonder Woman, he does let Gal Gadot just do all the heavy lifting in that movie, especially 1984, that movie. So I do see that quality of Chris Pine. And, Star Trek came out 5 years before, so we know who he is, captain of the ship, blah, blah, blah. So I think it will be very... I mean, this role is on the verge of being a cameo. It's... Eric Stoltz wasn't really a big name, but Pulp Fiction came out 3 years ago, and that was a big movie, and so he was, there was a name there. I think if you reintroduce a bigger name and then have him sit out of the middle act, it's almost a cameo, and then he comes back at the end. So for that, I like Chris Pine. However, Justin Chatwick is also an arguable choice because he's up there. 32, right?
Oh my god.
He's 32. How old is Chris
Pine? Well, because Eric Stoltz was 36.
90, 2000, 2002. So he's in his he's in his mid 30s. So
yeah. Mid-30s. Okay, so age-wise, we're okay. Yeah. We're okay. It's just a name. I like Justin, and I like the sort of persona he has. He's got a bit of a there's charismatic elements to him being a captain, and I'm okay, and I think a lot of people will be okay with him just sitting half of the movie out. I do want a big name in that role, though, because I do want that effect of, oh, he's really cool. We like Chris Pine. We're on board. Oh, wait, he's gone. However, I do not want Chris Pine out of.
Let me ask this question to make it easier. And Cory might have to try to chime in on this.
I'm saving that for the top two.
Too much for a cameo? Too much to be considered a cameo?
I feel like it'd be too much. Okay. That's me personally. That's not me.
No, yeah, it's not a cameo role. I mean, okay, I'll tell you what I'm going to do.
You could always...
I'm going to resort to Cory.
You could always go, and this isn't me picking my choice, but I'm saying that you could always go the Justin Chatwin pick, and if, say, any of our choices, like, previously, you would want to switch, I would just switch. Because you could just...
You do have the switcheroo.
No.
Okay.
Which is where I'm aiming at, because... I've got a switcheroo for someone and someone, which I'm not going to say yet,
Yeah.
but I don't want Chris Pine out of one of those movies. And
Phone a
Justin
friend.
Chadwick, I'm not sure of. I think I just need to hear a third opinion.
I mean,
about these
like,
characters.
I don't
Cory,
envy
have
you
you got
because I
anything to
think,
add?
yeah, you're just in the situation in which, I mean, like, for me, I don't really care about the Jack Ryan movie or the other thing Chris Pine one is. It's mostly just Into the Woods for me. I think that's one of Chris Pine's most fun performances. He just has a ball with that, playing the egotistical prince in that movie, Prince Charming. But like, but also at the same time, like, Justin Chatwin can not exist and no one would ever notice. And so I think, like, I don't know, if it was me, I would just go Chris Pine, just because I feel like Eric Stoltz's character is kind of that lovable intellectual heartthrob that, you know, is J-Lo's attracted to. So
Okay, I've made a decision. It's a tough one because I'm gonna hope this pays off later on. I haven't admitted it yet, but I do like Into the Woods, and I think one of the best parts of Into the Woods is Chris Pine in it, and I like the fact that he goes and does something different. And Cory's absolutely right; he's having fun with that role, and I do like it, and it's good. So I'm going to use an override really early on, and I'm praying to God people are getting Sarone and Terri right. So I am using an override now with this character, because I just can't pick Justin. I need a name. So I am bringing in Adrian Brody for this role. Adrian Brody was in the Grand Budapest Hotel, and he's in a minor role, but it's quite a good role. But I think, you know, Wes Anderson can just cast Owen Wilson in this film instead, and Adrian Brody. So I'm going to bring Adrian Brody into this role. He's a little older, but I think he'll be a good cameo role for the captain, who's got an authoritative figure, can be soft, and can sit out for most of this movie. So yeah, sorry guys, I liked both picks. I liked where you were going.
I guess I never saw him as a name, but I also understand the point of almost like, oh, we're gonna like, we like this actor, we want to see him, and then he's like out the majority of the movie. So I do get that.
You've lost your largest power up.
Forcing me in an awful position now, because I'm going to have to go with who you've got coming up. So
this episode just got good.
Don't disappoint me, guys.
Wow, man, y'all forced his hand on the character that's in bed the whole movie. That's insane. Wow, let's I don't think Ash had a choice, like, either. I don't. Okay, all right. Man.
I mean, I know what I would have picked, but I'm biased.
Yeah, I know.
Listen, if I was in that theater and I saw him, I'd be like, "Oh, I'm a Shameless fan." Like, yes, that man's beautiful. And then he's out of it the majority of the time. Hell, shit. I'd be upset. I'd be like, "God, this was a waste of money."
Yeah, but we're in 2014, and everyone just is going to look at him and go Dragon Ball Evolution. They would just
No, they're not. They're going to go Shameless because it's the time of Shameless. What are you talking about?
Yeah, no.
Yep.
No.
So
you two would, but people that actually watch Shameless would look at him as, oh, that's Steve.
Cass, I think you're casting with the wrong head. That's all I'm going to say.
No,
and so
I thought with the right head, this is a weird sentence.
All right. Moving on to Danny
Good night, everyone.
Played by...
Let's be honest. What else are we supposed to do?
I know what I'm going to do. I'm about to throw both of y'all son of bitches in the river myself.
Danny Rich, played by Ice Cube. He is the cameraman. He's street smart. He's direct. He is, unfortunately, it is the 90s, and we still have the token black guy archetype in horror movies. But I'd say Ice Cube's the greatest token like black guy.
He doesn't die first
ever. Yeah, Ice Cube's so badass. He survives this movie, and like, doesn't disappear. He like fights the snake,
Forever.
everything. Like that's just Ice Cube is
Yeah.
amazing. And so, and this is even like he's kind of like in J-Lo territory here. Like we know who he is, but like he's still just that dude from NWA and putting out like hardcore gangster kill cop rap albums. Like he's super controversial. You know, this is before Are We There Yet in other family movies. He's like hardcore Ice Cube. So like he might have originally meant to die in the script, and then they cast Ice Cube and they're like, nope, that dude's going to survive. Like, we cannot
Keep him
realistically
alive.
well, it's like you can't. The snake would not kill Ice Cube. They're like, no one's going to believe this. It's just not.
This is
gonna happen.
unrealistic. Change the
So-
script.
So, but yeah, he is. Yeah, he's amazing. He's essentially just Ice Cube as a camera guy in this movie, and I honestly think he does super well playing it. Like even
yeah.
very like grounded. You know,
Yeah.
has a lot of fun scenes like with Warren Westbridge and everything, and so it's good. It's good. I like it. All right.
Ash.
Okay, right. God help me for the next 3 rounds.
But now I
Going in
fuck.
blind. Guys, please throw me a bone here. I'm a
Don't,
man
Nick.
with a gun with no bullets. All right. Danny Rich. Since none of you got there, I'm just going to go back to Nick. So, Nick, who do you
Okay.
have
So
in place of
I
Ice
kind of
Cube
wanted to
for Danny
keep
Rich
in line with the
2014
Ice Cube
as
casting. I wanted to
Anaconda?
try to find pretty much. I just said, okay, what upcoming rapper turned actor is going to fit this role best? So I really wanted to just keep that mentality there, you know, and keep it not necessarily the he's from LA part, but obviously some credibility there. The person I had in mind was a bigger name, but he is just coming off of a comedy TV show. He's not known for being what Ice Cube was at his time and era. Donald Glover is too well-rounded in the sense of like he's doing comedy before he makes his big leap into like movies and his albums and stuff like that. So the name I'm going to give you is a little more underground, but it's a well-known name among the rap community and it's respected. He is a big connoisseur of film, in particular kung fu movies. He even starred and directed in one, The Man with the Iron Fist, a couple years before this. I'm going to give you the RZA of the Wu-Tang Clan. He has a gruffness to him, and there's a toughness to him in the roles that I've seen him in. And I think that he will be able to have that same kind of mentality combating with our with Warren, and then also being able to stand up with our Jennifer Lopez character, Terri, and be able to kind of fight the fight there at the end of the movie.
So I have a question. What is the relationship that you think Danny and Terri would have? Because the ages between J-Lo and Ice Cube were 28, 29. RZA is 45 at this time.
What is
like meaning like what is their relationship? Because like I feel like with Terri and Danny, they had like this like no not like relationship like that. They've been friends for a while from what I remember, like them when they hugged in the beginning. Mm-hmm. But I just saw that he was 45, so I was just trying to get the idea. I don't think
if it's more of like a brother-sister relationship in the original movie or like a close friendship because of their age, I don't think the age here necessarily is a problem. I think it's just this is the film crew, and and on film crews you have a wide range of people. There can be a 10-year difference, there could be a 30-year difference between people.
No,
so I think that this is just her trusted cameraman. This is just her trusted guy, and maybe there's a protector mindset he has of her, of like little sister mentality, and so I think that I still think that dynamic can work.
No, okay, that's fine. Yes.
Yeah.
No. No. It's an interesting point, Cass.
No.
So RZA's 45 at the time. Okay, not necessarily a hindrance or anything. That's not a problem. all happy with the
No,
gender
and even bringing up
fluidity,
the
age,
film
everything.
crew
So
part
this
of it, it's
movie,
like, yes,
it
you can
has
have
the
all the.
option
So,
of going
yes, Nick,
one
you made a
way or
good point with
another,
that.
but-
I think just in my
Yeah.
mindset, I was like, oh, they've been friends for. But that's
Exactly.
just the. I feel like the writing aspect in me, where
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, they've been friends since like school or college, whatever. So
Yeah.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's an audio commentary, and I think they had some backstories. I think J-Lo and Ice
Gotcha.
Cube had their own
Got it.
backstory, and I think they grew up in the same neighborhood,
No.
and she got him the job on the boat. I think is the
Yes.
story, which is never mentioned in the movie, but I think their performance
Where it's not
is
that
quite
relationship sort of
you
thing,
know, you
where
can
there's
get
that
vibe
jealousy
from
that we talked about
brotherly,
earlier. Yep.
sisterly kind of thing. Like they've gone through some stuff. Yeah,
Listen,
yeah, it's platonic.
Networking
Exactly, yeah, and
is such a huge
Tarantino as
deal
an
in the
actor doing
film
this,
world,
he'll
especially
give
when you're
every
doing freelance
character or
stuff. And a
every
lot of
actor
time
a
it is just your
backstory.
friend going, "Hey, do you want to go to South America and film a boat ride?"
Yeah.
Will there be wild animals? I've seen Anaconda one too many times.
Will there be
so-
snakes?
Oh my god.
Kind of thing. All right, okay.
Yeah.
I like it, and I've just seen a picture of him, and he's definitely got an authoritative look to him, something, streetwise about him. So yeah, you're going very
Mine's
close
gonna.
to Ice Cube there. I like it.
Now I'm really
Right, Cass,
second
what have you
guessing
got to
because I
counteract
did the same thing as you, Nick.
Who have you got for
The
me?
first person that I thought of for this was Donald Glover because
Yeah.
I was thinking of not even just the comedic route, because I do think like even Troy in Community had his serious moments
Mhm.
that I feel like Donald Glover did a really, really good job with. But
Yeah.
I can also just see him saying like his like little one-liners and stuff, and just almost kind of being like I could see him dramatically like falling and stuff like on the boat, like when everything was getting hit. Like it was just spot on. But I was trying to get out of that mindset.
Donald Glover is having the reverse Ice Cube career. He starts in comedy and is slowly being recognized more and more as an artist and a performer.
So yeah, my choice is going to be a little. I feel like mine's going to be kind of left field.
Yeah.
I still kind of went the comedic route, but not in the Ice Cube and Donald Glover sense. And I'll just say the name. I'm not even going to explain what this character or this actor's in. So I went Kenan Thompson. From Kenan and Cale, from SNL. Mm-hmm.
From Kenan and Kel.
And I think I feel
like
like I went him just because like he
All
really
right,
isn't
okay.
in as much, and he
We're
is a
going
good
there.
actor, and he's only really in SNL as of now, at least. But just try to give him like this role. What's up?
Yeah, yeah.
Same.
I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
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 No, I'll tell you what. I'm a really big fan of Kenan Thompson, and I actually think he can act.
Right.
Mhm.
I just think he's failed to break away from that stereotype or typecast that he's been cemented in.
Mhm.
And he did actually play, and it was a bit of a comedic role. He wasn't
Yes.
sick on the plane with Samuel L.
That's
Jackson.
right.
He was the guy who flew the plane back, wasn't he? He was a PlayStation fanatic in that movie. So he has dipped and dived into commercially
Yeah.
big movies, but he hasn't really made a stamp into his career yet. And I do love the idea of giving him a shot again, because
Right.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
love that guy. And I
exactly.
think maybe my it's Kenan and Kel talking, because I grew up watching that and I love the show. However, Ice Cube's character of Danny. Now, here's the problem with Anaconda. Every character in this movie, every character on that boat has a moment when they're in charge. Every character. There's an authoritative argument, and it's always led by a different character. Gary has it, Danny has it, Terri has it, John Voight has it for most of the movie, but everyone has a moment in the movie where they get
It's
to
the
have acting
intimidate.
chops. With this character, it's more of his presence. Is a stereotypical presence in the movie, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does,
Unless it's a skit that he
allow
did in
Kenan
SNL. But yes.
to do some acting, which I don't think he ever had the opportunity to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly. I just don't think directors are taking like
Josh
I
Peck?
saw
Josh,
do you remember
yeah.
Drake and Josh, that Nickelodeon show? Yeah. So Josh Drake,
Mhm.
is it Josh? No, Josh Peck. So Josh Peck's just been casted in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, in a very big role. So he's obviously taken a shot with him, and I think he's going to
Yep.
flourish after this.
Yeah.
But for the last 10, 15 years, he has just been typecast as Josh Peck because of Drake and Josh. It takes one person to sort of just give you a shot. So for that, I am going to pick Kenan Thompson because I love that story. I really love that story, to see him go places. And I think if you give him an opportunity,
I
to
can't
act,
fault
I
it
think
because
he'll do
I
it.
do love Kenan Thompson.
So yeah, I'm gonna
Yeah,
go-
who
I think
doesn't?
I think my main concern is just
The
how the
intimidating.
audience will accept it, and if it will become off as comedic, or if he will be able to pull off the more dramatic action.
Yeah, and I think,
Yeah,
and that's the thing, giving him that opportunity to pull it off. Like,
Yeah.
if I'm going to give you an opportunity to show audiences that you're not this guy from
Cory?
Kenan and Cale. Give me what
Moving
you
on.
All right.
Paul Sarone, played by John Voight.
May the souls of the faithful depart through the mercy of God. Rest in peace. Amen. Non departed Filii Spiritus Sancti. Westridge!
How dare you? It was you who brought that snake. You brought the devil.
There's a devil inside everyone.
The father of Angelina Jolie, somehow. Known best for Deliverance and National Treasure. Two very different roles. He is charming, but deranged. Aggressive, and he knows the jungle. He's a poacher, I guess. I mean, he is just out there looking for giant snakes. Because apparently people will pay ludicrous amounts of money for, like, the skin of a very large anaconda. Or maybe he's trying to trap one for, like, I don't know, somebody that wants a pet anaconda. All he knows is there's money in it. So he hijacks. I guess he wrecks his boat, and therefore the next boat that comes by is a documentary film crew, and he hijacks them. And so and he makes I don't know. It's that's honestly the most convoluted part of the plot. Is I just feel like he probably didn't have to hijack these people, but whatever. That's what makes it a movie. We need victims. And so very manipulative, as Ash mentioned earlier. Manipulative dude, but charming. But yeah, totally dangerous and crazy. John Voight actually plays it very well. Honestly, like I think
he has a
better
ball with it.
performances in the movie, honestly. And so, yeah, all right. He's our human villain. That's not a snake. So
yes.
Giving it over to you, Ash.
All right. Yeah, and thank you, Cory. This is where it's going to get problematic. This is where the soul of the movie lies with this character, because every review I've read that is bad always says that John Voight was actually quite good in this film. And I agree. And I think he definitely sinks his teeth into this movie, no pun intended. He goes over the top and he does it really well. So this is the one where I'm scared. So guys,
Okay.
let me know who you've got for Paul Sarone.
I was trying to
Cass,
get into like
you
that.
got it the last round.
I don't
Going
want to say.
you.
I mean, yeah, he was
Who do you
creepy,
have
but like just
for Mr. Sarone?
that weird, like charismatic but creepy vibe, and especially like that maybe some other time quote just kept just popping up in my head because it was just like you need someone that's very unserious too, like in a serious ass moment, because they're trying to look for their because he was the what was Mateo again? He was the yeah. So I'm taking him out of a decent amount of movies. I'll read them off
Captain. Yeah.
in a little bit. I don't think a lot of them are important. I am taking him out of a movie that I said that I liked. So I'm okay because no one mentioned this movie. I don't think anyone cares about this movie. So I'm going to pull him out of 22 Jump Street. and I'm gonna. It's not gonna be Ice Cube if that's what you guys thought, but that would be a really good pick.
Okay.
I went Peter Stormare.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Because he gives off the very like that creepy vibe with the one-liners, and even like later on with John Wick too was really funny. And that next year he does one of my favorite games called Until Dawn, and it's like his face and everything, and he plays like this creepy psychiatrist. It just is very charming. Like he kind of just pulls you in. You think that he's good, and he's not. So, yeah, he was 61 at the time.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, being a child of the 80s, I just know him as the Russian space station in Armageddon. So
Yes.
the cosmonaut, the one that he's absolutely incredible in that role, and obviously Fargo as well. He was really good at Fargo. He's the other half of Steve Buscemi's double assassin in that movie. Yeah, I like it. I really do. He's definitely got creepy vibes. Our second villain of Bad Boys 2 as well, I might add, that we've got in this casting list. Okay. Peter Stormare, the Russian cosmonaut in Armageddon. I like it. And you've hit the nose. Yeah, you've gone on the nose again for this one as well. And he hasn't had really many commercial movies, I guess, since just after the 90s. So, all right. Okay. I'm going to let that ponder for a while. And I'm going to go over to Nick and see who you've got.
I feel like I played it safe a bit, but I'm giving you a name. And there were a lot of... I was trying to find someone of Latin or Spanish descent to actually fit this, because I think that's the only thing people might comment on the original Anaconda, is that Jon Voight is playing a man from Paraguay, from South America. So when I watched it, I was like, where's he supposed to be from? But again, he does a good job with it. It's not this like character cliche type version of something. So I think he does a good job with it. But I wanted to kind of keep in that line of thought. But a lot of those actors that we know from that are involved in a lot of different things. Benicio del Toro, for example, he's in Guardians and a couple of other movies. So I'm going to give you, he's only in Automata this year. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. It's a movie, but big name. He's played villains before. I'm giving you Javier Bardem. I just think that he has that casualness to him where he can be crazy, but and it's almost like Cass was talking about with the line. It's an afterthought. He's whatever. But he also has the intimidation factor and the strength to kind of take over the ship, because this is very much the Quint role in Jaws. This is the crazy guy, not so much about revenge and trying to get the animal for his own personal reasons, but I'm the crazy man on the ship, and I'm going to take us down trying to get it, basically. And I think Javier Bardem is a big name that you can put in there with these cast members, because we've built a cast generally of people that are on the up and up or being given opportunities, to get in a different type of movie. So I think having him to kind of, for lack of a better phrase, steady the ship a bit is a good choice.
No, I like it. I like both of these ones. Okay, this is the biggest one. This is the one I need to get right. This is what I'm going to do. Javier Bardem, I feel like at this point is very stereotypically known as a villain. And I'm not even talking about No Country for Old Men. I'm talking about Skyfall. I'm talking about quite a lot of films. So he's pretty well suited for this role, more so than Peter Stormare, I would say. Peter Stormare just looks more like Sarone or Jon Voight did. So I was going for something different with these two characters, and I do like what you said about bringing someone from a Spanish Latino sort of culture and bringing in Paul Sarone, because seeing Jon Voight, who has blue eyes, who's from Paraguay, is very problematic. But you go with it, and which is why his acting is so good and so over the top. So he counteracts that a little bit. But yeah. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Peter Storman's on the nose. I like it, but he's not a name anymore. He's the name that he is a name. He's well known. He's a face that everyone recognizes, but he's not a name that you put on posters. Javier Bardem, I mean, he's an Oscar winner.
And I don't think there's any hiding that fact with the Jon Voight character per se. And I don't think there's anything wrong with it because again, we are dealing with a movie that is in the tradition of B movies.
Yeah.
And so sometimes there's how old is Javier?
55. He was 50. Oh wait, no, I did that wrong. Sorry, 2014. So he was probably like 45.
Yeah.
2014. He's 45. Okay. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go with Javier Bardem, but I'm going to switch his role with Adrian Brody's. I want Javier Bardem to play the captain, and I want everyone to know he's in this movie, but I don't want him to know he's the villain. And I don't want him to be in this movie for that long. So I think I want Adrian Brody to play Sarone because he's just got that energy about him that can go either good or bad. And they're both Oscar winners. They both got the acting capabilities. And I just want something a bit different with Sarone. So I'm going to go with Bardem.
I feel like it's a very Mother situation. Like, I feel like I'm not going to trust Stephen Cale, like, at all.
Paul Sarone.
I feel... Is this a... No.
But that's the thing. Have you seen Vicky Cristina Barcelona?
Before we
charming,
take the hand off the chess piece.
Against his serial
I have
killer. Really
questions.
good in it.
I have questions though.
Oh my god.
Is it a bit? Is it more you're concerned that he's the villain? He's always been the villain, and you're trying to like just change it up a little bit to kind of like keep the audience guessing and unexpected. So when he goes down, it's like, oh, well, what's going on? My second thought is you have to have Javier, and I get, yes, he was in Vicky Cristina Barcelona across from Penelope Cruz and Scarlett Johansson, but you have to keep in mind he has to be in a relationship with our Terri Flores, and the ages might not match is all I might put out there.
Well, specifically with mine, there is going to be a 20-year difference, but there was almost like a 10-year difference between J-Lo and Eric Stoltz. So you kind of right.
But you have to think of the dynamic. I think one was the teacher and one was the student. So I think there's that relationship going on in the 1997 movie as well.
True.
That's how I think that relationship is going ahead. And you've got to remember as well, she seduces Sarone in this movie too, as well as being with Cale. So either way, she has an interaction with either of these characters. The reason I want Bardem as the captain, as the good guy, as the soft guy is because I haven't seen him do that enough. And he's definitely got the acting capability to do that. And also, the fact that he's asleep for most of the movie is going to be a massive shock when people are like, oh, we're going to see Bardem. Oh, wait, no, we're not. And that's where Adrian Brody sneaks in. And he's got that very sort of diverse way about him where he can be quite good or quite bad. And he's definitely got a ruthless side to him, definitely shown in all of his Wes Anderson films. And he's gritty. He's very gritty. I mean,
I love
Robert
that
Rodriguez's
Predator.
Wasn't a fan of it, but he was an interesting pick for the main guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
Yeah. And it reunites him in kind of a poetic thing. Danny Trejo is in that, so that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put Javier Bardem in the role, then I'm gonna swap Javier and Adrian Brody's roles. So Adrian Brody will now be playing Paul Sarone, and Javier Bardem will be playing Dr. Cale. And that's what I've decided.
I keep him in 22 Jump Street because I think that's kind of what made
so much. Just not a name.
And that's not why you kept him.
Exactly.
Oh my god! Listen, I still get him next year for Until Dawn. I could have taken him out of 22 Jump Street. That was fine.
Exactly. Until Dawn's there. So that means I've used both
Nick,
my
let's pick
power
the
ups.
worst,
I
the
have to
worst
No.
choices.
No,
one
stop
of your
this.
characters for the main role. So
Paul Sarone
I'll
will be
go
played
back
by.
to Cory.
We're switching one New Yorker for a different New Yorker to play the Paraguayan Paul Sarone. 2014's Anaconda, which brings us to Terri Flores, originally played by On the Up Jennifer Lopez.
I don't know if you know, but this film was supposed to be my big break. But it's turned out to be a big disaster. Anyway, I was just thinking that maybe I could film you capturing the snake, and then it wouldn't have all been for nothing.
Tough, ethical, beautiful. And she's the director of this particular documentary project that goes completely awry, as most documentary.
Not a very good director, is she?
She's not. She didn't tell Ice Cube to
Wow.
pick up the camera over and over again like
Right.
she should have been, but whatever. She survives, of course. She's our heroine. It's Jennifer Lopez. Most people know her from, anything. The Super Bowl, Hustlers, Made in Manhattan. Lots of things.
Oh,
So, all right. I actually recently watched an entire documentary on Netflix about her doing the Super Bowl halftime show. She did not come off
That's
looking
right.
great. She was very upset about having to share the Super Bowl with Shakira. So, all right. All right. So that's Terri Flores. Ash, over to you, my friend.
Well, I leave you entirely up to you guys because I can't do anything but choose one of your choices. So please, please, please give me something to work
You
with. guys.
technically picked me, but then you,
So I guess
you
I'm
gave a
gonna
little
go
switcheroo
with.
there.
Guess it's Nick. Nick.
Yes,
you got it the last time.
Yeah. So I wanted to
The
keep
old
in the same
switcheroo, it's
vein
there
of
for a
somebody on
reason,
the
but
up and
all right,
up.
Nick, who you got for our main
She is
character,
not a
Terri?
singer, dancer person, but she is an actress, television actress, and this is pretty much the year she starts dipping her toes into film. You'll see her later on in a lot of franchises where they don't quite take off, or she's in a franchise installment that's not that well beloved. So I'm going to give you the Mother of Dragons, Emilia Clarke. I think she has a command about her, obviously playing Daenerys, but in the film roles I've seen her in, she can also play damsel in distress. She can play the strong, savvy female heroine. I think that she has all those capabilities. I just think it hasn't quite culminated in a great role for her outside of Game of Thrones. And so I think this is another great opportunity for her to show that talent and range in this role.
Okay, Nick.
Well, you didn't take
I
her
like it.
out of
I
Me
really do
Before
like it.
You,
It's
so
something different.
I'm okay
It's
with it.
something. Yeah. I'm falling in love with that a little bit. All right, Cass, we'll come to you now. Fighting on all fronts over there. Cass,
I
who
try
do
to
you have
stick
for
in
our
like to
main
the
character,
whole just
our director, made
not
famous by
even just
Jennifer Lopez. Who have
upcoming,
you
like
got for
up
me?
and coming, but like I just wanted a singer, just more for me to like laugh at, like, oh yeah, remember when J-Lo was? But I went Rihanna because she was acting. She did Battleship. Isn't that what? Yeah, Battleship in 2012. I forgot what I saw that she did in 2013, but well, this is the end. But
So I was about to say, I was like, this is the end?
no, I thought I read that she did something else too, but I think it was a like an animated thing. But
okay.
Yes, this is the end. Don't call me out. Don't make me a fake fan of my favorite movie. But yeah, I wanted Rihanna, and I also was thinking of her playing in Bates Motel as.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
No, not as Norma Bates. She played the lead role in Psycho in the beginning. I can't think of her name right now. Corey, I need your
Marion Crane.
Thank you.
Oh right.
So,
what?
yes.
Marion
I went
Crane.
Rihanna. She was
Marion
26
Crane.
at the time.
Yeah. The Janet Leigh role. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. I like both. I was expecting Rihanna from someone because I was trying to go for who follows Jennifer Lopez's sort of trajectory in the 90s to 2014, and that was probably the only name that I've got. And they're both very successful. They're both doing Super Bowls. They're both doing
Shots
movies.
fired.
But
I mean, I'm not offended.
That's
You know where she'd be
No,
great?
I-
She'd
I-
be
I
great
like
in
her.
the
I think she's. I
Watch your
really
words.
think she should
Denise
stick with singing, to be
role,
honest.
I think.
She's a fantastic singer. Yeah, that's a good way of putting that. Yeah, she'd be very good in one of the minor roles of this movie. I like her a lot, though. I do like Rihanna, but Emilia Clarke, I think, just coming off Game
Yeah.
of Thrones with playing alongside Jason Momoa, some authoritative males in the movie, and she really holds her own in those movies, in that series. I think you've already seen that she has that capability to sort of fight fire with fire, and she's quite a minute person as well, and she's got such a presence, and I love Emilia Clarke. And I don't think the age difference between her or Javier or Adrian's going to be an issue in this movie at all, because I've seen her in films where she is playing half the age of the love interest, and she's absolutely fine with it. So I think for this one, I think I am going to go pick Emilia Clarke for the role of Terri with that Nick. So yeah.
Ash, would you like to read the entire cast list
Lock
for
that one
Anaconda
in.
2014 for us?
Yeah, definitely. We going all the way down. OGG, I think. Such a cool name. Excuse me. Yeah, with pleasure.
That
so, with
is
unknown
Anaconda
victim number 2, we have
2014.
John C. Riley. Unknown victim number 1,
host,
we have
so I'm not gonna say
director
anything.
cameo J.J. Abrams. Still unsure if he's going to be directing this.
The people
movie.
want to know, Corey. The people want to
Voice
know.
of Anaconda,
I
we have
will
Gideon
simply say I would have done the
For
exact
our
opposite
cameo
of
death
everything
at the
Ash did
start,
up
the
top.
Poacher, that'll be played
And
by
I mean,
Samuel
Up top?
L.
Every single thing would have
Mateo
gone the
will be
other
played
way.
by Stephen
So
Ox. Denise
that just
Kalberg
shows
will be
that me
played
and
by
Ash
Even
are
Rihanna?
Mario.
total
Gary
contrasts of each
Dixon will
other.
be
Oh
played
no,
by
I would have
Breaking Bad's
no. I
Aaron
mean,
Paul. Warren Westbridge will be played by
I'm just not happy with
Laurie.
your cast, to be honest,
Dr.
Nick.
Stephen
I
Cale
actually
will be played
feel
by
bad
Javier
for
Bardem.
Ash. Like, I
Danny
mean,
Rich, played by
Ash
Kenan
needed to be
Thompson.
loaded down with
Paul
overrides.
Sarone,
So
played
that's
by
all I'm
Adrian
saying.
Brody,
It's just
and
I
finally,
feel bad.
our lead, Terry
I
Falls,
apologize
played by
for
the
you,
one and
Ash.
only
It wasn't
Emilia
that you did
Clarke.
bad. It was you were in a rock and a hard place, and we would have just both gone probably opposite on
Yeah.
all of it. All right. That means, Nick, you're up. What do we have for the next episode?
Okay, so we got a big movie coming up.
That's
a sequel that I may or may not care about, but I want to recast the original movie of it that I do care about. So I'm going to ask you guys to recast Raiders of the Lost Ark, the original Indiana Jones movie.
Oh.
And we're going to take it to 2021.
We should have
So
Anaconda Part 2, I think.
despite Steven Spielberg and Harrison Ford's wishes, I'm going to ask you to
What?
find the next Indiana Jones.
Oh no.
God, in 2021.
Thank you, Corey. I accept that. Thank you.
Just
Ash is like, I'm safe.
Ash is like, I'll see you guys next time.
as a teaser for the next episode, I don't like Indiana Jones movies, so
I've never seen any, so this is gonna be fun.
Oh my
so upset
God.
I have to.
Ash,
I feel
will you please come onto the episode?
No.
Ash, what's your stance on it? Do you like Indiana Jones? Did I pick? Oh my God.
I think Ash should be forced to host the next one, so he just has to sit there in silence as we destroy things.
I second that. I second that.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna turn to Ash and he's just gonna be like, I don't know. I can't help you. I can't do anything.
Well, everyone, that was Anaconda 2014. Please tune in. Next episode as we take Raiders. Is that it? The first one is Raiders?
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark to 2021. Again, we're on all social media. You can engage with us there. Tune in to see what might be a total train wreck and the total mental collapse of Nick Growall on the next episode of Quantum Recast. Until then, say goodbye, Nick.
Goodbye, Nick.